boy couldn't use a sword. He was just a support, trapped in a world that worships mana. His name was Kim Ho, but one day, he suddenly appeared in the middle of a battle between two dragons. After barely escaping, he realized something had changed. His support class was no longer the same. Now he had awakened an EX class, a rank that surpasses even S class. He can copy any ability from monsters or people. That's how Kim Ho stole the power of those dragons. After that, he became a genius at the Dragon Slayer Academy, destroying all the mages who rely only on mana. The game opens, showing the Academy's name and its characters on screen. To progress, players had to face various monsters on the front lines. As a veteran of this game, he became the top-ranked support player. From a portal, dozens of creatures charge forward, while a larger one attacks from above. Seeing the approaching horde, the group of heroes prepares for combat. Just then, one of the monsters leading the charge lunges forward with its mouth open. Then, the heroine Lee Seo gets into position to attack the crowd of enemies. With her strike, she lands a direct hit on one of the creatures, sending it flying. Next, Hong Hyun Ah also raises her scepter to cast her own magic. Right at the front, a knight faces a giant serpent preparing to strike. Without hesitation, he manages to plunge his sword into the giant monster's head. After defeating the serpent, the knight Go Yohan lands on the ground. Having won the battle, the team gathers in the middle of the destroyed arena. Analyzing an item, he says he found what he was looking for and calls for Carmilla. Holding the magic stone, he prepares to strengthen the character behind him. Offering the magic stone, he tells her to take the evolution item. Upon receiving the item, she presses it against her chest, absorbing its power. With that, Carmilla finally evolves into her S-rank vampire queen form. Back in the real world, he stretches in his chair, feeling exhausted. Taking off his headphones, he comments that there's nothing left for him to do. Looking at the monitor, he considers starting to train weaker characters now. Suddenly, a new notification pops up on the screen, catching his attention. Seeing the message, he realizes he's unlocked a special quest for his achievement. Reading the details, he's stunned by the mission's X-rank difficulty. At that moment, he understands there must be higher-level heroes and items. Without a second thought, he decides to accept and clicks the mouse to continue. Immediately, a confirmation screen announces that the mission will begin. His vision then shifts completely, revealing the blue sky of a forest. Now inside the game, he understands the mission has reincarnated him into it. Recognizing the place, he realizes he's in the game's tutorial forest. Opening his status window, he notices he has no skills or items. Just then, a new screen appears and grants him some reincarnation bonuses. Soon after, the tutorial begins with a mission to survive for 10 minutes. Remembering this mission, he comments that it was about escaping low-level monsters. However, a loud noise makes him look up, noticing a strange movement. In the sky, two giant dragons are fighting each other violently without stopping. Falling backward, he's startled by the presence of two bosses so early on. Then he starts running desperately to escape the combat zone. As he flees, the dragon fires a powerful attack that destroys the forest. Stopping his run, he realizes it's the perfect chance to use his ability. To use the copy, he needs to observe the exact moment the ability is activated. Additionally, he needs to know the target's name and rank with precision. On the ground, the dragon's attack causes a gigantic explosion that burns everything. With his eyes focused, the image of the dragon using its power is reflected in his pupil. Successfully, he copies the elemental resistance and smiles at the result. Looking at his hand, he feels satisfied with the S-rank trait. Just then, he notices the wind has changed direction and becomes alert. Before him, the red dragon gathers a large amount of fire in its mouth. At the same time, the blue dragon also prepares to fire its breath attack. Seeing their preparation, he realizes they're both about to use their strongest attacks. Knowing the danger, he starts running to get away from the impact area. Then the red dragon fires an immense blast of fire at its opponent. Right after, the blue dragon also launches its powerful electric attack. Running desperately, he tries to escape the explosion coming up right behind him. After everything, a screen confirms he has completed the first tutorial. The scene shifts to a station, where a young man approaches a girl sitting on the train. Inside the cabin, he explains there are no seats and asks to sit with her. Seeing that she doesn't react, he asks if she's asleep at the table. At that moment, the protagonist arrives at the door and asks if there's a vacant seat. Turning around, the other guy says there's room, but the girl isn't responding. Waking up suddenly, the girl lifts her head and looks at the two young men. Pointing to the empty spot, he asks if he can sit, and she agrees. As he sits, he introduces himself as Kim Ho, while she says her name is Seo Ye-in. Afterward, he invites the other guy to sit, who thanks him and introduces himself as well. Thanking him profusely, the guy promises to return the favor, and Kim Ho asks why he was late. In response, he says he got distracted watching dragons, reminding Kim Ho of the danger. As the train starts moving, The journey toward the academy finally begins. Looking out the window, he knows he recognizes the place, but something feels different. He then thinks about the names of his two new companions, Go Hyun-woo and Seo Ye-in. Observing the others, he realizes he doesn't recognize any of the students or staff around him. Because of this, he understands he needs to stay alert for any future changes. Then, he notices the girl beside him is staring intently at him. As a user, she possessed eyes capable of quantifying everything she saw. Analyzing Go Hyun-woo, his status window showed only attributes she considered common. But upon seeing Kim Ho, she sees a status full of question marks, finding him special. Seeing her continuous stare, he asks the reason for such a fixed gaze. Just then, she recalls a piece of advice about being kind to interesting people. Getting an idea, she then turns and grabs her case with determination. From inside the bag, she takes out a package full of chocolate cookies. Extending her hand, she asks if he would like to have one of the cookies. A bit awkwardly, he thanks her and asks if she made the sweets herself. Confirming that she did, she just comments that they taste decent at least. While eating, he asks Go Hyun-woo if the thing next to him is a sword. Hyun-woo then explains that it's a sacred relic, but it's still sealed for use. Pulling out another weapon, he says his current companion is an iron sword. With a smile, Kim Ho questions if it wouldn't be better to use something sturdier. Suddenly, another student appears in the cabin, excusing himself to everyone. Seeing that the guy doesn't sit, Kim Ho asks the reason for his visit. Showing a pamphlet, he says he came to promote his errand service for the academy. At this, Kim Ho asks if his service includes breaking school rules. Looking at the reflection, he notes that the boy seems anxious and is looking toward the window. Saying he'll explain later, the boy tries to leave the cabin quickly, but as he opens the door, he's startled by who is on the other side. In the hallway, the disciplinary committee appears and orders him to come out. Seeing the committee, the boy smiles nervously and tries to hide behind the door. As the group responsible for security, they were patrolling the train at that moment. Extending her hand, the leader demands he hand over what he shouldn't have. Suddenly, he's hit by an attack and cries out from the shock. With her hand charged, the girl reveals herself to be a lightning attribute mage. Holding the cookie, Kim Ho sees a chance to copy a very useful ability. At that moment, Kim Ho drops the cookie on the floor as he backs away slightly. Putting on her gloves, she warns she will subdue him for not cooperating. Then, she points two fingers in his direction, preparing her next skill. She then fires a bird-shaped attack, hitting the boy head-on. Struck by the blow, he puts a hand to his head, feeling the impact of the attack. Extending his hand, he prepares to intervene in the middle of the confusion. Just then, he grabs the student from behind, surprising everyone with his action. Charging his hand with the same energy, he shows he has copied the ability. Surprised by the scene, she asks if the boy had an accomplice nearby. Stepping out of the cabin, he says he's not an accomplice of the fleeing boy. Pointing to the cookie on the floor, he informs her that she made him drop it. While she fails to understand his words, a notification confirms he has acquired the ability. He complains that the cookie fell on the floor because of their commotion. Annoyed, the member says he's overreacting, while the leader threatens him directly. Stepping forward, Hyun-woo warns that he won't just stand by if they attack. With tension in the air, the two groups face off in the middle of the hallway. To settle the fight, the young man offers a dessert coupon, which he accepts. Asking about his situation, the boy sees the leader preparing to attack him. Happy with the outcome, he smiles and confirms he'll make good use of the skill. Holding a wig, she explains that the boy stole it from an employee. Advising him, the girl tells him not to get involved, but he ignores the warning. As the committee leaves, one of them tells her to remember what happened. Back in the cabin, the student explains who the members of that committee are. He reveals that the leader is Song Cheon-hai, granddaughter of the famous Thunderlord. Next, he introduces Jo Byuk, a direct disciple of the feared Fist King. Finally, he identifies the other two as disciples of well-known masters. Waving, he says goodbye and leaves, asking them to pretend they don't know each other later. Asked why, he says he just wanted to test the mage's ability. He then asks what Hyun-woo knows about the magic he just saw. Given its speed, the attack's main purpose isn't to cause direct damage. Explaining its origin, he demonstrates the skill, creating a small energy bird. Based on the bird's movement, you could gauge the user's level. He says that if she were experienced, the bird would have changed its path. But since the attack continued straight, he concludes she doesn't have much control. Hyun-woo is impressed by the analysis, while he warns there's still more. Analyzing the magic's strength, he notes that it has great power potential. Calling it fate, Hyun-woo is grateful for the explanation he received from his classmate. Offering to help, he promises to do his best to assist him always. Seizing the opportunity, Kim Ho asks Hyun-woo to accompany him somewhere. In another room, he pulls a cloth off a strange machine. Under the cloth, a game machine appears, completely broken in front of them. Explaining the place was a casino, he shows that it's still a mess. Despite his doubt, he puts a coin in the machine to see if it works. When nothing happens, Hyunwoo concludes the machine really does seem to be broken. Suddenly, the machine lights up, revealing a secret event right in front of them. Determined to get the prize, he pulls the machine's lever with force. After spinning, the machine dispenses just a simple bottle of water as a reward. Seeing the result, the two of them just stand there, staring at the water bottle. Asked why, he explains that the problem is the items that come out of the machine. Continuing to play, he tells his classmate not to worry about the committee. Just then, Han So-mi appears at the door and asks what the two of them are doing there. As she warns them of the danger, he asks Hyunwoo to buy some time. Warning them about the rules, she reminds them that helping also results in penalty points. Even so, Hyunwoo says he'll take it, since it was his own choice. Drawing his sword, he challenges the girl to a little practice match right there. Accepting the challenge, she charges straight at him, starting the confrontation. Using his hands, he manages to block the girl's first direct blow. The two then cross swords, testing each other's strength in the middle of the train corridor. With her sword charged with energy, she prepares for a stronger technique. Taking a firm step forward, she lunges at him with force. In a leap, she attacks from above and he struggles to defend the blow. Seeing the situation, Kim Ho decides to use his ability to amplify his power. With his power boosted, Hyunwoo is surprised by the new strength he received. Now strengthened, he can fight on equal footing with the girl from the committee. As the fight continues, Kim Ho watches the remaining time on his buff. Back at the machine, he plays one more time while explaining his strategy. He reveals that this machine has a guaranteed reward system after a certain number of tries. For the 5th time, he receives another useless prize, just a can of soda. Holding the last coin, he prepares for the most important play of all. On the 6th try, the machine finally hits the maximum diamond combination. As a reward, he gets the black ice crystal he wanted so badly. In the middle of the fight, the girl leaps for a final attack against her opponent. Looking back, he warns that the situation isn't really over yet. With the buff almost gone, Hyunwoo struggles to defend the final attack. Having seen enough, he swallows the crystal he just won. Clutching his throat, he feels the item's effect, receiving the freeze status. Suddenly, he stands up saying he's fine and leaving everyone confused. Back in the cabin, he explains that the item is like a magic potion. For beginners, the crystal is a poison that turns a person to ice. But with his resistance, he can nullify the effect and absorb all the energy. At that, Hyunwoo asks if the girl bought it, but he dismisses the idea. Happy with the help, Hyunwoo thanks him for the item and the chance to fight. Asking to see the technique again, his request is denied by the young man. Sitting at the table, Hyunwoo understands that such a powerful technique would have usage restrictions. From the train, an announcement informs everyone that they are almost at their destination. Finally, the train approaches the island where Dragon Slayer Academy is located. Telling the story, a text explains that the place was a lawless land. Then, a hero appeared and defeated all the criminals, conquering the local dungeons. After everything, he built a city and founded the famous academy on the site. At the school gates, a student directs the freshmen on which way to go. Walking through the courtyard, a girl warns them not to follow the upperclassmen who are there. Just then, a small tiger jumps onto a student's shoulder, causing a minor commotion. As they walk, the group is stopped by someone who calls out to them. Turning around, they see the committee leader, who asks them to follow her. Leading the group, she guides them to the door of the disciplinary committee's office. Now alone, he waits seated inside the truth room to be interrogated. After reviewing the results, the veteran says nothing seems to be wrong. Believing the story, he says the item wasn't forbidden after all. Before him, the committee chief, Oh Se-hoon, explains the rules of disobedience. Since no one was hurt, he decides not to apply any penalty this time. After the conversation, the veteran notices his colleague still seems very dissatisfied. Analyzing the facts, she says the young man's attitude is still very suspicious. She angrily suggests they investigate his abilities more closely. Questioning the idea, the chief asks what they would do if they found nothing. With no answer, she bows and apologizes for her rash attitude. Advising the girl, he tells her to hurry and get to the ceremony. Arriving at the venue, he finds his friends and thanks them for saving him a seat. With that, a screen confirms he has completed the 3rd tutorial and received his reward. On stage, the Academy's director appears to begin his welcome speech. Seeing him, one of the students comments that he doesn't look very important, but in reality, the director is a retired hero with immense power. Commenting on the director, a student says that was already the 5th rejection. On stage, the director clears his throat and begins to welcome the freshmen. Explaining the Academy's purpose, he says the place trains dragon slayers. He continues, saying the founder insisted on the word slay for a special reason. During the director's long speech, Kim Ho just watches the situation attentively. As the speech goes on, some students are moved by his words. Finishing his speech, he wishes for everyone to become true heroes at the academy. Kim Ho asks if he didn't find it boring, but his classmate vehemently denies it. Next, a female teacher gets on stage to give some important announcements to the students. She continues, warning that freshmen can only go to the first floor of the dungeon. With a serious look, she asks everyone to study the rules to avoid problems. Ending the ceremony, she orders everyone to return to their dorms without delay. Suddenly, one of the students stands up and calls everyone to go eat. Seeing the injury, Hyunwoo asks what happened to the guy's face. Pointing his finger, he warns that tomorrow is the first day of class. Back at the dorm, Hyunwoo waves, saying goodbye to his new roommate. Inside his room, he takes off his jacket, deciding he won't just go to sleep. Putting his uniform in the closet, he prepares for what he'll do next. Then, he sits on the bed and begins to meditate to make use of his free time. With his hands, he concentrates all his energy to finally form a core. Any ability depended directly on a power source like the one he was creating. Even though it was his first time doing it, he could already understand the whole process well. After absorbing the crystal, he smiles, confident he would get a good result. Meanwhile, in Hyunwoo's room, he was also meditating to concentrate. Recalling the fight, he thought of Han So-mi, his first truly strong opponent. Without Kim Ho's intervention, he knows he would have lost that fight earlier. Ever since they met, he had noticed his friend's confident posture and gaze. Looking at his sword in the corner, he considers whether he should ask for help. Giving up on the idea, he decides not to ask, considering Kim Ho his first friend. Closing his eyes, he smiles and decides he will try to do it all by himself. The next day, the students are chatting while waiting for class to begin. Yawning, Seo Ye-in arrives in the classroom, looking like she just woke up. With the teacher absent, the students begin to wonder who will be in charge of the class. Seeing someone at the door, a group of students prepares to welcome the teacher. But when they see who it is, they are all shocked by the unexpected appearance. Facing the class, the new teacher introduces himself as Lee Soo-dok to the students. Pointing to a female student, he asks her to say what people call him. Stuttering, she calls him the Human Butcher, leaving Kim Ho surprised by the name. In the world of the academy, there were people who transcended their limits and became villains. Lee Soo-dok's job was to hunt down and capture all these dangerous villains. He explains that he is here at the director's request, and that he is a professional. With a threatening look, he warns that he'd rather kill than see bad grades. Getting straight to the point, he writes on the board and begins to explain the grading system. Speaking of scoring, he reveals that the attitude grade can be negative. Warning that he'll be watching, he mentions they might meet again after graduation. Continuing his explanation, he details that the exams involve conquering various dungeons. Additionally, there are PvP battles, where the evaluation is entirely relative among them. Showing the board, he asks if there are any questions and tells everyone to go to the arena. Moving to the arena, the students already begin to face off in the placement exams. In the stands, the crowd celebrates the big event, leaving Hyunwoo quite surprised. Being a match of endurance, the rule states that the fight only ends with exhaustion. With a 5-minute time limit, the match can also end in a draw or a victory. Answering the question, Kim Ho explains that a draw doesn't deduct points, but it's worth 0. Just then, a new mission appears, requiring him to get a good result on the exam. Using the exam, he plans to analyze all the other students to gather information. This way, he can mark potential candidates or find skills worth copying. A short time later, the announcer calls Kim Ho and his opponent to the center of the arena. Facing the girl, he realizes his opponent is from the famous Ruby Magic Tower. Smiling, he warns her that she'll have to put up with his act for 5 minutes. To boost her reputation, she says she needs to defeat a renowned opponent. She then notices his weapon is a very weak and simple staff. Because of this, she deduces he must be an earth mage focused on protection. After the countdown, the fight begins, and she prepares her first attack. Wasting no time, she decides to end it all with her combustion skill. Her magic is cast, and the crowd is impressed by the display of power. However, the outcome of the attack leaves the girl in complete shock. To her surprise, the scoreboard shows they are both at 100%. Even after taking the hit, he remains standing in the same spot without moving. Seeing that he is unharmed, she realizes her attack had no effect at all. Facing each other, the scoreboard shows that both still have their health intact. Annoyed, she asks if he used some kind of magic to nullify the blow. To attack with more force, she conjures a magic circle right beneath him. Warning him that he can't block this, she prepares for her next attack. Standing in the center of the circle, he warns that he'll counterattack at the first opening. Given his confidence, she can't understand her opponent's attitude. Completely still, he just waits for her attack, showing no reaction. Gritting her teeth, she prepares to use an even more powerful spell. Then she yells for him to block it, unleashing a pillar of fire. He's swallowed by the flames of the attack, caught in the center of the massive explosion. Swirling in the arena, the column of fire hits a large area around him. The crowd reacts, surprised by the girl's powerful magic. After the attack, she's left panting, having used a lot of her energy. When the smoke clears, he appears completely unscathed, leaving her speechless. Realizing the situation, he announces he's going to use his trump card now. Unleashing the bird, he counterattacks, shocking the girl with his skill. Trying to defend herself, she raises her arm to block the incoming attack. Hit head-on, she feels the impact and grits her teeth in pain. The blow leaves her paralyzed, unable to move for a few moments. Announcing they're stopping, he decides to end the fight right then and there. Advising the girl, he says it's better for her to save her remaining cards. Still paralyzed, she can only grumble, annoyed by her situation. Seeing the girl on the ground, the audience is shocked by the unexpected defeat. Noticing the attention, he realizes he's drawn more of it than he expected. Without even a moment's rest, he's called again for the next fight. In the crowd, the students are surprised to see his opponent is Song Cheon-hai. Putting on her gloves, she says she's lucky to fight him now. In the arena, the two face off, preparing for the upcoming match. Raising his hand, he announces he's forfeiting the match before it even starts. From a distance, the professor watches the scene and wonders about the reason for his attitude. Explaining his condition, he says it would be better to accumulate points in another way. Despite her insistence, he confirms his forfeit, saying there's nothing to be done. Clenching his fist, the professor accepts the forfeit and processes his loss. Calling him pathetic, the girl says he should always give it his all. According to her grandfather, only those who never give up can reach the top. Hearing this, he remembers that her grandfather is the famous Thunder Lord. Reflecting on the advice, he says it doesn't apply to his own case. Dismissing the situation, he tells her she can consider it a win. Disappointed, she turns her back, saying she regrets having expected anything. Suddenly, she turns around, seeming to have remembered something important. Smiling, he reminds her that she promised to send him a dessert coupon. With a wide smile, the girl gets annoyed at her classmate's attitude. Being called to fight, she meets her opponent, a guy from the Topaz Tower. Seeing the energy around her, the guy is surprised by the situation. Before he can react, the fight begins and she fires a powerful lightning bolt. The scoreboard shows the result, an overwhelming victory for the girl. Watching the scene, the young man comments that it was a real disaster in the arena. Seeing the opponent on a stretcher, he says Kim Ho did the right thing by forfeiting earlier. Still in the arena, the girl grits her teeth, clearly irritated by the whole situation. At that, the student asks if Kim Ho saw the girl's angry expression. Smiling slightly, he comments that it was perfect for his current plans. In the stands, other students start saying his victory was just luck. Having gotten the evaluation he wanted, he just smiles at his plan's outcome. Next, the announcer declares that the following match will be against Seo Ye-in. Wielding two pistols, Seo Ye-in reveals herself to be a gunslinger, surprising everyone. Surprised, his friend says he didn't know, and Kim Ho agrees. Analyzing her opponent, the mage says the situation has just gotten much more interesting. Saying it'll be tough, Kim Ho comments that gunslingers are hard to beat, so he proposes a bet of 5 silver coins on the match's outcome. With a broad smile, the guy accepts the bet, sealing the deal between them. With the scoreboard reset, the two students prepare for the start of the fight. Right away, the gunslinger dives to the ground and fires a barrage of shots. Facing the projectiles, the mage raises her hand and prepares an energy barrier. She manages to block all the shots with her lightning magic, defending herself well. In the stands, the guy is surprised by the block, but Kim Ho had expected it. Conjuring her magic, the mage summons 2 giant birds to attack her opponent. In the air, the gunslinger manages to dodge the birds, avoiding their hits. Dodging the lightning bolts, she readies her weapon to counterattack the enemy's blow. Even so, one of the bolts ends up grazing her, causing some damage. From a distance, the mage positions herself to secure victory in this direct confrontation. Watching the scene, the student comments that the fight would end with the next attack. On the ground, the gunslinger grabs a smoke grenade and throws it into the middle of the arena. With her vision blocked, the mage is left clueless about what's happening. Seeing the smoke, the student praises the gunslinger's excellent decision in the fight. Her vision obstructed, the mage tries to get her bearings in the middle of the smoke. Unexpectedly, one of the shots hits her square in the shoulder. Surprised by the attack, she turns around, not understanding what just happened. Seeing her opponent advance, the mage realizes the situation could get dangerous. Seeing her invisibility gear, a guy comments that she must be rich. Switching weapons, the shooter now prepares to fire with a rifle. With another shot, she manages to graze the mage's shoulder. On the scoreboard, both their scores keep dropping as the fight goes on. Looking around, she knows she can't just keep defending forever. Sliding across the arena, the shooter keeps firing, giving the mage no openings. Getting hit again, she needs to read the direction of the projectiles to defend herself. Just then, one of the shots hits her barrier dead on, which holds up well against the impact. Spotting an opening in her movement, the mage prepares for a quick counterattack. Then she launches a lightning attack across the ground toward her opponent. Using her weapon for a boost, the shooter leaps to dodge the attack. With a confident smile, the mage says she's finally found her opponent. Preparing her attack, she warns that the shooter won't be able to dodge this one. Hit head-on by the blow, the shooter screams in pain from the impact. As the timer hits 0, the shooter falls to the ground, and the fight is finally over. Seeing the result, Kim Ho pulls his friend's hair, who couldn't believe it. Standing in the arena, the mage is declared the winner of the tough match. Even in defeat, the shooter showed great skill by holding on until the end. Without complaining, the guy hands over the 5 silver coins he lost. Wanting to bet again, he tries to convince Kim Ho to go for another round. Seeing the new fight, he points to Hyunwoo and says he's switching his bet now. On the other side, his opponent is Jo Byuk, the disciple of the Fist King. Asked about the bet, Kim Ho says the disciple will win the fight. Betting on the opponent, his friend calls him harsh on his own companions. With a smile, Kim Ho tells his friend to just wait and see the result. In the arena, Hyunwoo notices that Kim Ho is watching his fight intently. Wanting to prove his worth, he unsheathes his sword and prepares to fight. Seeing the iron sword, his opponent suggests he use his other weapon. Refusing the offer, he says that unfortunately, it's not the right time yet. Even so, he warns that he won't go easy on him in the fight. Satisfied with the response, Hyunwoo says that's exactly what he was hoping for. As the fight begins, the two face off, ready for the first move. Wasting no time, the disciple charges at him with his fists ready. Moving perfectly, he dodges the blows and prepares a counterattack. With a charged blow, he strikes the sword, breaking his opponent's defense. Thrown back, Hyunwoo is surprised by his adversary's strength. Seeing that basic techniques won't work, he prepares for a different strategy. Stomping hard on the ground, he dashes forward with speed, using a special technique. With his sword charged with energy, he decides to end the fight in one blow. He then lunges forward to strike his opponent, who braces to defend. With a single blow, he breaks the iron sword in half, stopping the attack. Seeing his weapon broken, he says he can't continue and declares his defeat. As the winner, Jo Byuk says he'll be waiting for their next match. Seeing the outcome, Kim Ho says the iron sword couldn't take it, just as expected. Remembering the train, he already had a feeling this would happen at some point. With his arms crossed, he concludes that Hyunwoo uses his swords as consumables. Shocked by the prediction, his friend asks how he managed to foresee that result. Grabbing his collar, Kim Ho just says the guy talks too much and demands payment. With no money, the student just smiles, trying to get out of the debt. Then he offers another form of payment, making the guy more excited. Pointing to the notebook, he says he'll accept information as payment for the bet. Ending the matches, the teacher announces the exam will continue after lunch. In the garden, the students eat and chat while waiting for the break to end. With his mouth full, the student tries to speak, but Kim Ho tells him to eat first. Apologizing, he asks what kind of information his friend wants to know now. Besides the official organizations, their world has 4 main great powers. These are the Magic Towers Council, the Order of Knights, and the Alliances. Speaking of talents, he introduces Moyong Jun, the grandson of the Sword Saint. Next, he introduces Hong Yeonhwa, the candidate for the next Tower Master. From the Guild Alliance, he points out the druid Park Nari with her tiger. Finally, he talks about Lee Seong-hyun, the son of the sword master. Flipping through the notebook, he says these are the students considered to be the strongest. Suddenly, the student realizes Hyunwoo is no longer around. Looking at his phone, he remembers he forgot about his club meeting. Running off, he apologizes and says he has to go on ahead, leaving his friend behind. Alone with the girl, Kim Ho sits there, not knowing what to do. He then thinks that the girl beside him was the first connection he's made. Eating a cookie, she just stays quiet, not saying a word to him. Then he says he received a dessert coupon because of the train mix-up. From the box, he takes out a cake and offers it to the girl, inviting her to eat. While he eats, he looks at the girl, who remains quiet without saying anything. Suddenly, she asks why he thinks she lost the fight. Explaining the situation, he says the mage had a mana advantage in the fight. Warning that the situation could have been different, he continues his explanation. He then explains that the outcome would have been different if she had strengthened her bullets. Asking why she needs to train, She surprises him by saying she doesn't. So he asks how she can create her mana bullets without any training. Sitting next to her, he asks if she's ever trained her skills before. When he discovers she's a genius, he's shocked by the revelation. Without any training, she managed to give the mage a hard time, which was impressive. Seeing her potential, he offers to help her train someday. As the bell rings, he gets up and calls the girl for the exam. Standing before the portals, the professor explains how the conquest exam will work. Inside the mist forest, he says the dungeon will have 2 special rules. The first rule was to get the highest score possible within the time limit. The second was that everyone's equipment and skills would be locked at F rank. Warning them of the danger, he says that even their cores would drop a level. After the explanation, most of the students fall to the ground, feeling very sick. Disappointed, the professor just watches the scene, thinking they were all weak. Looking at the scores, he realizes that only a few students did well on the test. Calling the next ones, he prepares to announce the names of Kim Ho and Seo Ye-in. Advising the girl, he says it would be better for her to use a rifle in the exam. Looking back, the mage grumbles that he's not even a shooter to be giving advice. Saying goodbye, he turns and enters the portal to start his exam. With his stats being adjusted, he finally enters the dungeon's test zone. Seeing a slime, he decides to warm up a bit before starting for real. Looking at his screen, he analyzes his current status to see how his power is doing. As the timer starts, a mud goblin appears in front of him, ready to attack. The monster lunges forward and bites the tip of his staff, trying to break his weapon. Dodging a dagger, he realizes the monsters appear randomly there. Even so, he understands there's a pattern to the creatures spawning. Turning quickly, he spots the next monster about to appear in the dungeon. Throwing a dagger, he attacks the orc that was about to spawn. With precision, the dagger hits the monster right in the middle of its forehead, defeating it. Seeing the fallen orc's axe, he says he doesn't need his staff. With new weapons, he says he can just borrow from the monsters he defeats. Facing more monsters, he gets ready to start earning points for real. He continuously defeats every monster that appears before him without stopping. With 7 minutes left, he has already racked up a huge number of points on the test. Seeing 2 more trolls spawning, he stops and decides not to save his recording. Deleting the replay, he knows the recording could cause some misunderstandings later. Looking at his score, he regrets being rusty, even with so many points. Having met the mission's requirement, he realizes he doesn't need to fight anymore. Deciding to stop, he turns and heads back to the dungeon's exit portal. As he exits, he runs into the girl, who had also just finished her exam. She looks very tired, but she managed to get a better score than him. Asking how it went, she tells him the exam was much harder. From a distance, the professor comments that he didn't even last 10 minutes in the test. Scorning his determination, he wonders how he expects to hunt dragons like that. Seeing the score, the professor is shocked to see he left so early. Suspicious of the result, he decides he needs to check the situation again up close. Calling the next one, he tells Hyunwoo to enter the portal to start his test. Analyzing the scoreboard, he notices the top-ranked students are the well-known ones. Given their level, he wonders if Hyunwoo will have any chance to compete. With a calm expression, he just waits to see the outcome of the fight. Suddenly, Hyunwoo appears in first place, with over 1,000 points on the test. Surprised by the result, other students start commenting on his achievement. Coming out of the portal, he is congratulated by Kim Ho for his good work on the test. Thanking him for the help, he says he succeeded because of the rest he got earlier. From a distance, other students start criticizing Hyunwoo for giving up the fight. Annoyed by the comments, he turns to reply, but his friend holds him back. Winking, Kim Ho tells him to let it go, that it was all fine. Though reluctant, he understands and decides not to get into any more fights. Looking at the scoreboard, he asks if the exam is over, but Kim Ho says no. Seeing the portal, he realizes the last participant hadn't come out yet. Inside the dungeon, the mage fights a horde of goblins to score points. Suddenly, she turns, sensing a strange presence right behind her. Noticing her power has dropped, she sees the monsters have slowed down a bit. At that moment, she remembers the advice Kim Ho gave her earlier. Clenching her fist, she realizes she needs to concentrate her mana to attack with force. Using the enchantment, she lands a powerful blow, defeating the goblin in front of her. Upon exiting the portal, she shows her score and rejoins the group. Seeing she scored higher than them, she grumbles that she didn't even get that many points. With the exams over, the professor announces that the results will be out tomorrow. Dismissing everyone, he bends down to pick something up from the floor. Going to another room, the professor enters the academy director's office. Arriving at the desk, he asks to see the student's dungeon replay. Ignoring the reason, he insists they show him the recording immediately. Seeing that nothing is saved, the employee says that viewing it is impossible. So he asks to see the entry logs, to confirm something. Analyzing the data, he realizes the boy deleted his recording on purpose. Looking at the records, the professor realizes the boy has hidden his true abilities. The academy didn't just have allies, but also many enemies infiltrated nearby. If one of them had infiltrated, he needed to act very quickly. When asked about the director, he denies, saying he won't share any information. Deciding to observe more, he doesn't want the boy to hide himself even further. Looking at the screen, he decides he'll keep an eye on the student for a while longer. With a serious look, Kim Ho seems to feel that someone is watching him. At the cafeteria, the group gets together to talk more comfortably. Sleepy? The girl says she's going to bed, but the boys keep talking. Asking to see the catalog, he grabs a cup and gets ready to explain. Looking at the booklet, the boy complains that most of it is very confusing to understand. Showing his ID, he reveals that they now have a new point system. Acting as a currency, the points can be used throughout the entire academy. With the points, he explains they can buy items and use the facilities. Speaking of the replay, his friend remembers he agreed to something before leaving. Demonstrating the system, he shows how to buy other students' replays. At that moment, his friend is shocked to see the recording of Han So-mi's fight. Pointing to his phone, he shows that his friend's replay is selling well. Selling well wasn't a good thing, as others could analyze his weaknesses and prepare. Warning him of the danger, he says his weak core could be exposed soon. Smiling, he comments that despite the risk, the points were worth it in the end. He says there are special training rooms there to strengthen one's internal energy. Surprised, his friend stands up, not knowing a place like that even existed. Sitting down, he deduces that points would be needed to use the room. Crossing his arms, Kim Ho says he won't be able to use his points for anything else. Then, he points a finger and says there is another way to get in. However, to get the pass, he would need to take Mo Young-jun's position. Seeing the difficulty, he offers to get the pass in exchange for a favor. With a smile, he asks his friend to enter a dungeon with him. Clenching his fist, he warns that the dungeon is dangerous and could risk their lives. Looking at Kim Ho, he says he can't refuse a path to become stronger. Beating his chest, he accepts his friend's proposal with great determination and confidence. With the deal sealed, Kim Ho says he'll get the pass in 2 weeks. Arriving at the workshop, he knocks on the door and asks for permission to enter. Seeing a boy working, he asks who he is and what he's doing there. Approaching, he introduces himself and says he's interested in the Magitech Club. Angry at the interruption, the boy says he should have gone to another workshop. Lifting his glasses, he tells the boy to look around and leave immediately. Thanking him, Kim Ho winks and says he'll just take a quiet look around. Watching the boy work, he realizes his ability is B rank. Then, he extends his hand and uses his ability to copy the Magitech. Having copied it, he starts looking for his next objective in the workshop. Smiling, he tells the boy he found something interesting. Holding a blueprint, he asks if that item wouldn't be a good choice. Seeing the blueprint, the boy says it's useless because no one can make it. With a reagent in hand, he offers to trade it for the cube's blueprint. Seeing the item, the boy says it's very useful for Magitech. Handing over the vial, he says it's just this once and thanks the boy. Smiling, he thinks he should be happy for selling such expensive trash. Looking at the blueprint, a quest appears, revealing the item's potential. Even with the quest, he considers it would be too much work to complete the task. The final quest reward was the Cube of Life, an S-rank item. Walking away, he decides he'll create the item without needing to do the quest. Entering the training room, he prepares to start building the cube. Using his ability, he amplifies his Magitech rank to the S level. Holding the blueprint, he starts working on the cube as the clock ticks down. Seeing the progress, he calculates it would take 3 days to finish the job. With time running out, he realizes 1 minute is not enough to make much progress. In between, he meditates to refine his core and strengthen his power. Opening his eyes, he says he'll repeat the process for an hour. Using amplification, he repeats the process of building the magic cube. He needs to finish the cube before Friday, as an event will happen that day. Seeing it's already morning, he decides it's time to go to school. In the classroom, he greets the girl, who is surprised to see him there early. Looking around, he asks if his friend Hyun-woo hasn't arrived yet. Thanking him for what he did, the girl offers him a pack of cookies. Noticing the cookie is shaped like a dinosaur, he comments that he finds it interesting. Arriving in the classroom, Hyun-woo greets them both, and Kim Ho asks about his training. Excited, he says it was his first time accumulating so much energy so quickly. Thanking him again, Kim Ho promises he will get the pass as soon as possible. Suddenly, the professor enters the room and tells everyone to be quiet and sit down. Before class, he announces that PvP combat will begin starting today. Showing the arena map, he says the time limit has been increased to 10 minutes. Additionally, he announces that freshmen must participate in at least 3 fights. With the announcement over, Kim Ho says he will win the combat no matter what. After the announcement, a new quest appears, requiring him to participate in the fights. Determined, he tells himself he's going to win the fight no matter what. Placing a hand on his friend's shoulder, he invites him to the arena. Tugging on his sleeve, the girl hurries to get his attention. With a serious expression, she tells him she has free time today. Not understanding, he and the other students are confused by the girl's attitude. Explaining the situation, he invites the girl to the training he had promised her. Saying goodbye, he tells them he'll meet them later, leaving his friend flustered. Later that afternoon, the students gather in the arena for combat. Arriving at the arena, they walk around and watch the other students. From a distance, a guy asks if they know Kim Ho, who was nearby. Seeing this, his friend gets annoyed by the other student's comment. Grabbing his friend's arm, he stops him from starting another fight. Approaching them, the guy asks how many points he scored on the dungeon exam. With a scornful smile, he's irritated to learn he tied with a coward. From afar, a girl yells at the guy, saying he's not on the same level. Smiling, Kim Ho asks if he was the guy who got hit by the lightning. With a wicked grin, the guy doesn't understand the question and prepares to fight. Muttering, he remarks that they both have the same score. What a coincidence. Pointing his spear, he challenges Kim Ho, telling him to get down to the arena. Now in the arena, the two face off, with the scoreboard showing both are unharmed. Getting ready, he says he'll end the fight in the blink of an eye. With a smile, Kim Ho agrees that the fight will be quick. As it begins, the guy leaps into a direct attack, coming at him from above with full force. Seeing the spear coming, he just smiles, showing no concern for the blow. Hit by the bird, the guy is paralyzed and complains about the unexpected situation. Apologizing, Kim Ho warns that his blow won't be as fast as the mage's. Yelling for him to wait, the guy can't avoid the attack coming his way. Hit head on, he screams in pain as he's thrown across the arena. Seeing his opponent on the ground, Kim Ho asks if the coward managed to win the fight. On the ground, the guy says he just let his guard down and will win next time. Smiling, Kim Ho invites him to fight again, accepting his challenge. With the score reset, the fight restarts, and the guy charges forward to attack. On the ground again, he complains that he can't understand how he lost again. Angrily, he says that next time he'll definitely win the fight. Tired of the situation, Kim Ho says it's time to call it a day. Looking at the quest, he sees he's already completed 2 of the 3 fights he needed. Advising the guy, he says he can teach him if he really insists. With a smile, he holds out his hand and says he requires a fee. Seeing the pill, he says that it's a very good item to have. Handing over the item, the guy asks that the fight be kept secret. Taking the box, he says he'll spar with him until he's satisfied. Standing up, he asks if the guy is tired yet, and says he worked hard. Kneeling, he apologizes for his rudeness and his earlier attitude. Admitting his mistake, he says he misjudged him and that he's not a coward. Turning his back, Kim Ho says he should keep treating him like a coward. Without asking for details, the guy says he can't be the only one to be fooled. Meeting up with his friends, he asks about the results of Hyunwoo's fights. Excited, he says he's going to his 3rd fight before leaving. Switching to the training room, he apologizes and invites her to sit. Sitting across from each other, they prepare for the intensive course. Asking her to try, he watches as she creates a mana ball. Impressed, he wonders how she managed to endure the fight with that level of power. Then he says he'll teach her about mana distribution in her bullets. In another fight, the girl prepares to shoot her next opponent. Using the environment, her opponent hides to attempt a surprise ambush. However, with her eyes, she can see the flow of mana and finds him. Confident, the guy says there's no way she can break his barrier. Even so, one of the shots grazes him, hitting him right in the face. Seeing the barrier break, he's shocked to realize the shot went right through it. With a smile, the girl aims her gun, preparing for the final shot. As he's hit, he screams, and the scoreboard shows the shooter's victory. Watching the recording, the professor notices the extraordinary movement of the electric bird. Analyzing the second fight, he sees the mage was just toying with her opponent. Picking up another orb, he realizes there's an even bigger problem in this situation. Watching the shooters fight, he notes that her bullets were just mana balls, but in today's recording, the bullets were perfectly formed and stronger. Remembering the conversation, he realizes Kim Ho is involved in her change. Looking at the boy's image, the professor wonders about his true identity. At that same moment, Kim Ho continues to work on building the magic cube. With a smile, he says he's finally completed the item's construction. Showing the cube, the screen reveals the item can increase health effects. Thanks to the rewards, he was able to finish and even strengthen his own core. With everything prepared, he decides it's time for a little advertising. Walking down the hall, he runs into the druid Park Nari, a promising member. Approaching her, he says he's going to need her help with his plan. Seeing the tiger, he knows that animals are more sensitive to life energy. Suddenly, the tiger leaps towards the cube just as he expected. Startled, the girl tells the tiger to get away, while he prepares for the next step. Seeing that she felt the energy, he knows the druid sensed the power. Asking her to get the animal, he plays dumb and continues with his plan. Holding the tiger, she asks if he's the same class as her. Saying goodbye, she leaves, and he celebrates that the season pass is guaranteed. In the classroom, the teacher warns them they'll be colliding in several places. Looking at the clock, he anxiously waits for the end of class and lunch. With 30 seconds left, the teacher says she'll end the class there. When the time runs out, one of the students stretches, but notices something strange. In front of him, a red orb floats, leaving everyone confused by the scene. Suddenly, the orb expands and the student starts screaming in despair. Confused, the girl asks what's happening, since nothing happened to her. With a number on his forehead, a guy gets scared and doesn't understand what happened. Other students also point, realizing they have the number on their foreheads too. Without warning, the Academy's possession inspection begins with the banishment wave. Using a magnetic field, the system identifies all prohibited items held by the students. Smiling slightly, Kim Ho realizes the inspection has already started for everyone. While the girl sleeps, he notices a sound, which he deduces is from Joe Bayok. Seeing that not everyone was affected, the guy worries about his situation. Complaining about the number, he turns to Kim Ho, not understanding what happened. Desperate, he looks at his screen, not knowing what to do with his items. Seeing his friend's desperation, Kim Ho just watches him with a mocking look. Clinging to him, the guy begs his friend to help save him. Agreeing, Kim Ho says that he now owes him a big favor for this. Presenting the cube, he tells the guy to put all the banned items in there. With no time to explain, he points to the cube and tells him to hurry. Seeing he has no choice, he agrees and starts putting the items in the cube. Suddenly, the disciplinary committee storms into the room and tells everyone not to move. Pointing at the two of them, the mage asks what they're hiding down there. Standing up, Kim Ho says they were just resting a bit in the room. Backing up the story, the guy says they should just hand over the prohibited items quickly. Holding an orb, she says that tricks don't work in front of her sister. Placing the orb near him, she tries to detect any prohibited items he's hiding. Seeing no reaction, he asks if he can go and sit down now. Returning to his seat, he thinks that's why he needed to finish the cube beforehand. The Cube of Life is an item that can evade the banishment wave. Walking down the street, his friend thanks him for the help, saying he would have lost everything. Tapping his chest, he says he'll pay him back later and to put it on his tab. Agreeing, he invites him to the club room to sort out their problems. Known as the Thieves Club, they were the Academy's troublemakers. Arriving at the door, the guy calls out for the leader, announcing they've arrived. Suddenly, the door flies open and he's hit by a powerful blow. On the ground, he's stepped on by the leader, who tells him to pay attention. Seeing the scene, Kim Ho introduces himself as a new acquaintance of the guy. With her foot on the guy, the leader introduces herself to him as Dang Yu Young. Pressing down harder, she says she wants to see the item that avoids the wave.
Seeing the cube on the table, she's surprised to see the item is real. With her hands on the cube, she says she'd like to steal it for herself. With a smile, he warns her she'd be caught immediately if she tried to steal it. Knowing the system, she realizes it was an advanced Magitech item. Leaning back in her chair, she asks what he wants in exchange for the item. With a hand on her chin, she says they're poor and don't have much to offer.
Smiling, he says it's something she can definitely do without any trouble. With a serious expression, he asks her to take him to the temporary storage. Surprised, she puts her hands behind her head and asks who he is. Usually, item verification at the Academy is done over the weekend. Looking at him, she asks if the disciplinary committee sent him on this mission. Blinking, he says he's not on good terms with them and that he needs something. Leaning back, she says she can't accept his help for free, without a reward. Guarded by the committee, the storage is a very difficult place to infiltrate. Touching the cube, he says he can solve her breakout problem. Thinking about the proposal, she realizes she can use the cube to get the items out. With a confident smile, he asks if she'll accept his proposal. At night, a group gathers outside the large mansion. Adjusting her mask, Dang Yu Young asks if everyone has arrived for the mission. One of the members confirms, but questions who the new addition to the group is. She then introduces Kim Ho, explaining that he will help them on their mission. While one member doubts him, another welcomes him to the team of thieves. Getting a 1-minute warning, she assigns the final tasks. Then she turns to Kim Ho, giving him instructions on what to prioritize. Giving the signal to advance, she prepares to begin the infiltration. The entire group then starts running quickly toward the main building. Using a skill, Kim Ho also moves forward silently with the rest of the team. Running behind the leader, he touches her back to copy her skill. Near the building, a guard was patrolling the entrance, completely distracted and whistling. He stops walking when he notices strange butterflies flying around him. Suddenly, he is engulfed and immobilized by the magic of the emerging butterflies. Completely bound and gagged, the guard is left on the ground, unable to react. Now, on the third floor, they carefully enter the area. Suddenly, a guard appears in the hallway and asks who they are. Pointing his staff, he yells that there's an intruder in the academy building. Before he can react, two members of the group quickly tie him up. Kim Ho then warns him that if he doesn't resist, everything will be easier. Moving on, the leader says the storage room is just around the next corner. Before moving forward, she stops and uses an item to check for security. Seeing the image on the device, she complains that a strong guard is protecting the door. Kim Ho then approaches her, saying he'll help take care of it. He then asks if she knows how to use shadow butterfly magic. Surprised, she says yes, but her ability is still weak. Placing his hand on her, he uses a technique to amplify her power. She asks how he did that, but he tells her they need to hurry. Dang Gyu Young stares at him, completely suspicious of the whole situation. Preparing herself, she concentrates to use the skill he strengthened. Surrounded by the butterflies, the guard yells as he notices an intruder's presence. He then tries to attack the creatures with his axe, but can't hit them. Unable to fight back, he ends up completely overwhelmed by the surrounding magic. The two of them just watch from a distance as the explosion neutralizes the guard. Seeing the immobilized guard, she comments that it was an A-rank power. She then turns to Kim Ho, saying they need to finish the mission. With the storage room door open, she tells everyone to grab the items quickly. Inside, Kim Ho finds an item and decides to take something for himself too. He then looks for the forbidden items, banned because of their side effects. Focused on his search, he grabs an item he can use thanks to his resistance. After grabbing the items, he decides to look for skill books. Searching a shelf, he finds a book that immediately catches his eye. As a precaution, he decides to learn the skill from that book before leaving. Unexpectedly, someone appears at the door and asks what they are doing there. Song Cheon-gi glares at Dang Gyu Young, saying she's already started the semester by stealing. Dang Gyu Young questions what the student council president is doing there. Ignoring her, Song Cheon-gi orders them to surrender and follow him. Knowing that any delay is dangerous, she prepares to act against them. Then she shouts for her team to run, creating a distraction for everyone. Using her skill, she creates a shadow barrier to hide her group. As the magic fades, the two realize that everyone managed to escape. At that moment, Gwaksung Jai announces the intruders are out, ordering that none of them escape. Far from there, Kim Ho runs at high speed down the hallway to escape the building. Suddenly, he senses an attack and ducks to dodge the blow. Behind him, a stone fist smashes the wall right where he was. Turning back, he sees Gwaksung Jai praising his evasive moves. Gwaksung Jai says he doesn't recognize him and asks if he's a rookie. Noticing his silence, he praises his cleverness for not revealing his voice. With no intention of surrendering, Kim Ho runs to dodge the earth attack. He then counterattacks, launching a lightning bird toward his opponent. Creating a stone defense, he says the attack stands no chance. The lightning attack then collides powerfully with his stone defense. Struck by the electricity, he admits the power was very impressive. As he runs past him, Kim Ho hears a compliment on his performance. Suddenly, he stops running, realizing the situation has become more dangerous. Surrounding him with several pillars, he warns that there won't be a second chance. He then concentrates and yells that he's going to end this at once. Launched at high speed, the stone pillars fly toward him. Watching the attack, he calls him a very insolent and petulant boy. But suddenly he feels an intense heat, looking at the attack in surprise. Shocked, he sees Kim Ho use a completely unknown fire skill. Crouching, Gwaksung Jai says that it's an insane, forbidden skill. With his hand covered in flames, Kim Ho prepares his powerful counterattack. Using the infernal fist, he unleashes a blast of fire against his opponent. Looking at his own hand, he remarks that controlling this power is quite difficult. Seeing his fallen enemy, he says the disciplinary committee will investigate the case. Running a hand through his hair, he says the situation has become very problematic. Hearing a noise nearby, he gets ready to flee before anyone arrives. Just then, two students come running and shout for someone to take the upperclassmen to the infirmary. Shifting to the committee room, Dang Gyu Young demands they be released immediately. Saying she's finished, Song Cheon-gi turns to leave the room. Then, Oh Se-hoon offers her a paper, saying her cooperation will help. Reading the document, she notes that Kim Ho took small, expensive items. He then claims she knows everything about the missing items. Denying the accusation, she is told that everyone will take responsibility for it. With no choice, she agrees to take full responsibility for what happened. After the warning, she stands up, saying she's leaving the room. Meeting her group, they ask if she's okay and about the punishment. Counting the people, she asks where the missing member went. Just then, a student approaches, calling her shameless for pretending not to know. Angrily, she reveals that a club member used a forbidden skill. Surprised, Dang Gyu Young comments that the rookie has great skills to pull that off. Changing scenes, Someone knocks on the door, asking if Kim Ho is okay. Once inside the room, she studies his face and asks about the skill. Kim Ho replies that he wouldn't use it without a counter plan. Changing the subject, she asks if the items are safe with him now. Seeing all the jewels, she gets excited, saying they are very precious items. Looking at the items, she confirms their deal was successfully completed. As he was about to leave, she stops him and invites him to join the club. Pointing at him, she says she'll take very good care of him if he accepts. She then says he's arrogant and greedy, just like a thief. Without hesitation, he refuses the offer, leaving Dang Yu Young irritated by his response. She then asks if he plans on selling the item, wondering if that's why he refused. He then explains that he needs training passes, surprising her with the price. He says the item's ability is something else, leaving her even more confused. Offering to show her the description, he asks for just a small favor in return. He asks her to deliver a message, and she readily agrees to the favor. Upon seeing the item's description, she is completely shocked by its power. After analyzing it, she agrees the item is truly worth that high price. As he was about to leave, she reaffirms that the offer to join the club still stands. With a smile, she asks him to think carefully about her proposal. He then replies that yes, he'll think about it, with a slight smile. Days later, he asks Seo Ye-in if she rested over the weekend. Someone then questions if she rested, since she looks very tired. He soon realizes he's being watched by 2 members of the nature club. Finding the situation annoying, he tells Seo Ye-in to go on ahead. Making an excuse, he says he needs to take care of something and will catch up with them. Seo Ye-in then agrees, glancing at the 2 approaching from behind. Stopping in front of them, he asks why they've been following him. Mo Young-jun says he saved them the trouble by coming over. Beside him, Han So-mi politely asks him to please come with them. Kim Ho questions why, saying he isn't part of their club. Realizing the conversation is going nowhere, Mo Young-jun gets ready. Kim Ho agrees with the idea and quickly launches a lightning bird. With a swift attack, he hits them both at once. On the ground, Mo Young-jun is paralyzed while she recognizes the skill. He then says that if they want more, they should attack now because he's short on time. Frightened, she raises her hands and apologizes for bothering him. Saying she'll take her partner, she clears the way for him to pass. As she carries him, Mo Young-jun complains that it was just his luck. Annoyed, she hits him, causing him to pass out immediately. Suddenly, Han So-mi is hit by a projectile from a distance. Falling backward, she wonders why she was also attacked by surprise. Now, both of them are on the ground, completely unconscious after being neutralized. Shifting to the classroom, Seo Ye-in asks why he was late. Kim Ho then understands that the dungeon conquest is a timed attack. The professor explains they must destroy the totem within 5 minutes. As the class ends, a classmate calls Go Hyunwoo to do the dungeon with him. Kim Ho tells him to go, leading Go Hyunwoo to accept the new partnership. Seeing the newly formed pair, he just smiles as the classmate celebrates the invitation. Just then, Seo Ye-in tells him to go to the dungeon with her too. Trapped by plant magic, Mo Young-jun screams that this is a total humiliation. Angered, Mok Jong-hwa snaps that the 2 brothers have ruined his reputation together. He then questions how they could possibly lose to the academy's most famous coward. With a sharp gesture, he slams him to the ground, calling him a pathetic fool. Watching the scene, Ha Soo-yeon suggests they should at least meet the boy once. Agreeing with her, he mutters that their prestige has been dragged through the mud. Vowing revenge, he declares that Kim Ho will pay a heavy price. Slumped on the ground, Mo Young-jun begs for a single chance to redeem himself. Standing up, he claims they only lost because they were careless and pleads for another shot. Mok Jong-hwa warns him that if he loses again, he'll be expelled from the tower. With a strike at the air, Mo Young-jun shouts that he's confident in his victory this time. To ensure it, the master offers his golem, ordering it to crush the enemy without fail. Switching to the dungeon, Kim Ho tells himself this is just a relaxed training session. Analyzing the mission, he realizes he needs to finish everything in just 1 minute. As he faces the goblins, he notes that the real challenge is the duo-style dungeon. While they fight, he decides not to reveal the monster's patterns to her yet. Believing in her growth, he watches her learn on her own in practice mode. Continuing on, they find an elite goblin blocking their path. Stopping suddenly, they analyze the situation before making a move. He asks if they should slip past silently or confront the monster right there. Knowing about the bonus points, she decides they are taking the boss down. With the decision made, he promises to provide support while she charges forward. The monster defends against the attack, blocking the shot with its weapon. Despite being hit, the creature lunges full force towards Seo Ye-in. With a steady shot, she manages to land a direct hit right to its head. Ignoring the wound, the goblin glares at her and prepares its next move. It raises its massive weapon for a powerful overhead strike. Without hesitation, the monster brings its blade down with everything it has. Seo Ye-in stands her ground, aiming her weapon without flinching. Using his skill, Kim Ho declares that the monster has nowhere left to run. Boosting his skill's power, he unleashes a lightning bird to assist the attack. Seizing the opening, she fires at point-blank range into the giant monster's back. With the victory, the final score screen appears, displaying their total points. He comments that they were faster this time and can still improve their record. Approaching him, Seo Ye-in asks for another lesson on mana projectiles. Seeing her request, he smiles and agrees to the extra training session. He suggests ending the practice and heading to the academy's training center. Arriving at the shooting range, he explains that today's skill is projectile launching. He points out that she still treats the weapon and bullets as mere tools. To demonstrate, he creates a mana bullet and tells her to imagine her hand as the weapon. Pointing at the target, he teaches that the core is to focus and then release the mana. Mentioning it's similar, he asks if she wants to try with her hand first. Following his lead, she tries to concentrate the mana at her fingertips. Suddenly, the projectile flies backward, leaving him wondering how that even happened. Helping with her posture, he suggests she try launching just the raw mana for now. Telling her to keep practicing, he mentions he's going to grab some snacks. However, Seo Ye-in stops him and asks him to wait a second. Handing over a black card, she tells him to use it to pay for everything. At a cafe, he places the order while two girls eat at a nearby table. Han So-mi spots him from a distance and waves hello. Song Cheon-hai looks irritated at the sight of him, but he simply greets her politely. Getting up from the table, she says she needs to confirm something and tells him to wait. Approaching him, she asks for permission to take a look at his hand. Claiming it looks like a palm reading, she explains she needs to check something. Surprised, he asks how she could possibly know about something like that. After she asks if he's hiding something, he tells her to go ahead and look. Checking his other hand, she still finds no visible burn scars. Impatient, he asks how much longer they're going to keep holding hands like this. Letting go, she apologizes, but immediately calls out to him again. With a smirk, he asks for the results, curious about his luck in love. Annoyed, she shouts that he has many difficult days ahead before walking away. Turning his back, he goes on his way, leaving her behind in a rage. The next day, the two of them rush into the dungeon just as they had practiced. Ready for combat, Seo Ye-in charges forward with both weapons drawn. Taking a direct hit, one of the goblins is blasted backward by the shot. Before it can react, the monster is neutralized by the impact of the precision strike. Launching a combined attack, they fire together at the approaching goblin boss. With a final strike, the monster is completely defeated by their powerful combination. After the victory, the score screen pops up with an excellent final result. Praising the good work, he says their training has clearly paid off. Hearing the compliment, she finally gives her partner a faint smile. Before the portals, everyone prepares to enter the Academy's solo dungeon. With his partner safe, he enters the portal to focus on his mission. Inside the dungeon, he gets ready to finish things as quickly as possible. He then gathers a large amount of fire in his hand for the attack. With a single strike, he unleashes a massive wave of fire throughout the area. Using his ability, he summons several fire creatures to attack the monsters. After the attack, he stands amidst all the destruction he caused. Seeing his high score, he decides he'll delete the replay before leaving. Just then, a notification confirms the maximum level reward for completing the mission. Selecting his reward, he chooses the trait he wanted from the start of the mission. He then acquires the new wind-type support skill he chose. As he exits the portal, someone stops him and asks if he's really Kim Ho. Introducing themselves, the leaders ask to speak with him somewhere more private. Later at the coffee shop, Han So-mi apologizes for her rude behavior earlier. Sitting at the table, they mention they've heard about the special item he possesses. Asking to see the item, they hear him agree and show them the cube. Suddenly, Park Nari's small tiger leaps toward the artifact. Seeing the animal inside the cube, Mok Jong-hwa confirms the rumor was true. Sensing the item's energy, Ha-soo-yeon asks if she can see its description. Swearing to keep it a secret, they convince Kim Ho to show them the cube's information. Upon seeing the effect, the two are shocked and call the item absurd. Ha-soo-yeon then asks if he would be willing to negotiate for the cube. Mok Jong-hwa adds that the item would shine in the right hands like theirs. With a smile, Kim Ho thanks them for their aggressive approach but says he's still hesitant. She then tells him to name his price, promising to meet his demand. Showing 4 fingers, he asks for training passes and a blank skill book. Completely shocked by the request, the 2 leaders just stare at him, speechless. Calling the demand ridiculous, Mok Jong-hwa refuses, prompting Kim Ho to call off the deal. As he was getting up to leave, Mok Jong-hwa shouts for him to wait. Approaching him, Park Nari says she has a blank skill book. Explaining why, Park Nari says she hasn't used the skill book yet. She continues, saying that it would otherwise just sit in her inventory forever. With a smile, she says her tiger really liked his cube. Seeing the situation, Ha Soo-yeon authorizes the deal between them. With the conditions accepted, they finally exchange the items at the table. Holding his new items, Kim Ho says their business is concluded. Interrupting him, Mo Young-jun challenges him to an official duel. Without a second thought, Kim Ho refuses the challenge, leaving the other guy stunned. Mo Young-jun then shouts that a duel between them would be an honorable thing. Kim Ho questions if an honorable person would launch a cowardly 2-on-1 attack. Saying he won't waste his time, he tells the other guy to go brag somewhere else. Mok Jong-hwa then proposes a bet, offering a valuable item for the duel. Seeing the new proposal, Kim Ho thanks him for the offer and accepts their challenge. Letting him set the date, Mo Young-jun suggests 2 days from now. He then explains that he needs that time to learn the new skill first. Laughing at the situation, Mok Jong-hwa says learning a skill in 2 days is impossible. Holding the book, Kim Ho confidently tells him to wait and see the result. 2 days later, the Academy's arena was ready for the grand duel. In the stands, his friends wonder why he accepted such a dangerous challenge. Believing in his victory, one friend says he only accepted because he has a plan. Very suspiciously, Dong Yu-young decides to watch out for any dirty tricks from him. Down in the arena, Mo Young-jun compliments him for not running from the fight. The leader then asks if they both agree to have the fight fully recorded. After Kim Ho agrees, Mo Young-jun just flashes a very confident smile. With the duel about to start, the two enter the rocky terrain of the arena. The countdown then finishes, and the combat finally begins between them. Calling it luck, he warns that this time he'll show him the difference in their levels. Before he can attack, Kim Ho surprises him by using an earth skill first. Lying on the ground, he hears Kim Ho ask what he was going to show him. Kneeling, he feels a sharp pain as Kim Ho says it's just a dirt floor. Enraged, he creates a boulder, saying he'll see how long he stays relaxed. He then hurls the giant rock at his opponent with full force. Stopping the attack mid-air, Kim Ho effortlessly takes control of the rock. With a simple gesture, he demonstrates complete control over the large stone projectile. Completely shocked, Mo Young-jun yells, asking how that happened again. Tossing the rock far away, Kim Ho makes it explode in the air with a command. Lying in the rubble, he realizes this approach won't work. Acknowledging he's not a coward, he says he didn't want to use this. Still, he guarantees he will be the winner and prepares for his next attack. Placing his hands on the ground, he summons a massive wooden golem for the battle. From the stands, Dang Yu-young yells that it's blatant cheating. At that, a guy turns and shouts angrily at Mok Jong-hwa. The leader then says that crushing the golem wouldn't be a waste of time either. Worried, she wonders if they shouldn't stop this unfair fight now. Standing before him, the golem stares at Kim Ho with its single red eye. Completely silent, he stares back at the creature, showing no reaction. In a flashback, he studies the book he received to enhance his skills. Sitting on the floor, he read about the different types of supports that exist. Focused on the book, he found the most suitable skill for his fighting style. Back in the fight, Mo Young-jun shouts that he'll crush him in a single blow. The golem then prepares to attack, raising its enormous wooden fist. Unleashing a powerful blow, the golem strikes with all its might at Kim Ho. Jumping aside, he uses his new wind skill to dodge. Approaching the monster, he prepares to use the new skill he learned. Touching the golem, he unleashes a powerful gust of wind against the creature. Using his new skill, he launches a powerful blast of wind at the golem. With victory declared, his friends celebrate while he feels completely reinvigorated. Completely confused, Mok Jong-hwa yells, asking how he defeated that creature. He then keeps his promise and hands the VIP ticket from the bet to Kim Ho. Holding the prize, he proposes that the replay video be made private. Mok Jong-hwa understands the situation and asks what he wants in return. His condition is just a small favor to be called in later. After the agreement, his group leaves while Kim Ho stays behind. With this new skill, he now has an advantage for the upcoming battles. At that moment, his friends approach to congratulate him on his great victory in the arena. Go Hyun-woo then hands over the pass he promised, surprised he got it so quickly. Winking, He simply reminds him of the promise he made 2 weeks ago. Arriving suddenly, Dang Yu-young accuses him of making another deal behind her back. She then gets closer and asks about the favor he owed the club. Saying they wanted to meet, she asks what he plans to do now. Accepting the offer, he says he'll meet with them right away. Arriving at Workshop 1, he is impressed by the grandeur of the place. Then, a young man approaches and asks if he is really Kim Ho. Introducing himself, he says he's the club president and already knows the details. He then invites him to the club room so they can talk more comfortably. Inside, the president asks if he really completed the 10x10 cube. Sitting at the table, he explains that the cube's blueprint belongs to their club, but since no one else could do it, he asks to take a look at the cube. Then Kim Ho reveals he no longer has the cube, leaving the president shocked. Hearing he gave it away, the president says he's leaving, calling it a waste of time. Before he leaves, he asks if the upperclassmen really came empty-handed. Completely shocked, he realizes those papers are the blueprints for the cube. Analyzing the papers, he notices the middle part of the blueprint is missing. Desperate, he asks if Kim Ho has the rest, and he calmly confirms. Hearing the question, he says he wants to use Workshop 1's facilities. Agreeing to the proposal, the president hands over the copy and asks for the rest of the blueprint. He then invites him to the club, but Kim Ho politely declines the offer. Not giving up, the president makes a new offer of access in exchange for blueprints. With that, he says goodbye and leaves, finalizing the deal they made. With everything prepared, he now has the foundation to create his ultimate weapon. Changing scenes, the door to one of the academy's rooms is shown. Down the hall, Guak Sung-jae asks the leader to reconsider his brother's expulsion. Mok Jung-hwa then says the group's reputation was tarnished because of the defeat. Guak Sung-jae takes the blame for his brother, but then questions if it was his fault alone. With this insinuation, he makes it clear that the leader also shares some of the blame. Annoyed by the accusation, he asks if the committee is meddling in their affairs. Guak Sung-jae simply says he expects a fair judgment in his brother's case. The leader then asks what he really wants out of this whole conversation. Thinking about the proposal, he decides he will watch the rankings for 2 months. Guak Sung-jae accepts the condition, saying the time offered is more than enough. After the discussion, the leader turns and leaves Guak Sung-jae alone. Standing in the hallway, he just silently watches the other walk away. Suddenly, Song Cheon-hae surprises him by appearing right behind him in the hallway. Saying he already knew, he mentions that he saw her in the stands earlier. At this, she asks if Kim Ho could beat him in a direct confrontation. With some uncertainty, he says he can't be sure about that outcome. When he asks about the hands, she tells him they were completely unmarked. At this, he concludes it would be impossible to heal that quickly from that skill. Remembering the 2 different appearances, he finally begins to suspect his true identity. With great conviction, he says that arrogant gaze can't belong to anyone else. He then apologizes, saying she will have to work even harder. With a determined look, she guarantees she will definitely find out the truth. In the 3rd week, the rules for the new activity are revealed to all students. Lee Soo-dok explains that the goal is to discover each pair's weaknesses. To make up for it, he announces that the academy will offer a mentorship program. When asked about the mentorship, Kim Ho confirms he's already completed his registration. He then explains it's a great chance to learn from the academy's upperclassmen. Following his advice, Go Hyun-woo decides to sign up for the program immediately. He then asks if Seo Ye-in will participate, but she says she's sleepy. Worried about her, he wonders how he could convince her to join the event. Go Hyun-woo then asks him to be his partner for the week's combat. Suddenly waking up, Seo Ye-in asks to fight with him too. To resolve the situation, Go Hyun-woo suggests they each take a round. Saying he needs to train, he says goodbye, and that he'll see him tomorrow. The next day, everyone was already gathered at the location for the official combat. Arriving there, Go Hyun-woo apologizes for making Kim Ho wait for him. Kim Ho then notices that his friend's entire demeanor has changed drastically since yesterday. Asking them to watch him, Go Hyun-woo shows off his new power for the fight. Asking about the fight, he wants to know how yesterday's combat went. In a flashback, a huge explosion of fire dominated the entire combat arena. Remembering his opponent, he knew it was the talented Hong Yeon-hwa from the Ruby Tower. He then realized the outcome of the fight was worse than he had imagined. As he watched from a distance, her life was rapidly draining away because of the fire. Completely surrounded, she stood firm amidst all the surrounding flames. With no defensive skills, she was completely vulnerable to the enemy's attack. So he moves forward, deciding he needed to intervene in the combat to protect her. Using his new wind ability, he attacks the fire mage's protector. With an open hand, he unleashes a blast of wind against the opponent's shield. Deflecting the shield, The attack breaks the opponent's guard for a counterattack. Unexpectedly, a wooden hand appears and stops right in front of her face. He then uses a branch to block the fire mage's vision. Back in the present, he now waits for the selection for his next mentorship. He then comments that she didn't seem interested, surprising his friend. His partner calls Kim Ho cold for saying he needs to lose. With the match set, his friend announces he's going to show off his training. The two are then transported to the combat arena for the new event. Upon arriving, they realize the situation is quite unexpected for both of them. Surprised, he sees that his opponents are Seo Ye-in and her unknown partner. Seeing the situation, her opponent says it's the perfect chance for her to learn. When asked if he's going to win, he replies that he will definitely win. Starting the fight, Go Hyun-woo charges at Seo Ye-in to attack her. To create a diversion, she throws a smoke bomb on the arena floor. Leaping over the smoke, they say her trick is useless. Preparing her weapons, Seo Ye-in aims at the two approaching them. Kim Ho then advances with his staff, attacking her partner head-on. She then points her rifle, aiming right at his head. With a swift move, he blocks the gun's barrel with his staff. With a quick strike, he uses his new wind ability to attack. His fist then stops right in front of Seo Ye-in's face. Flicking her on the forehead, he neutralizes her with a single touch. Lying on the ground, she hears him ask if she still wants to continue. With no other choice, she gives up the fight and accepts defeat. After winning, he turns to watch the other fight that was still going on. As he watched, he remembered a warning about a hidden talent on the opposing team. Noticing the strange movement of his hand, he senses something very suspicious. Suddenly, he yells for them to stop the fight immediately. Facing his opponent, he accuses him of hiding his true combat abilities. The young man denies it, saying he's already fighting at his maximum. Offering a deal, he proposes to make the replay private to motivate him to fight. He then mentions a secret name, offering information as a prize for victory. Completely shocked, the opponent asks how he could possibly know that important secret. Without revealing anything, he just repeats that he'll give him the information if he wins. Accepting the challenge, he unsheathes his sword and prepares for combat. Seeing the change in his eyes, Go Hyun-woo also decides to fight with his full strength. Exhaling slowly, the opponent focuses completely before starting his attack. He then leaps into the air, coming down with a powerful strike towards Go Hyun-woo. Struggling to defend himself, he gets a cut on his face during the block. Shouting that it's not over yet, he continues to clash swords with his rival. Blocking another attack, he struggles to resist the pressure from the strong opponent before him. Announcing he's going to end this, he prepares the final blow to finish the fight. Suddenly, Go Hyun-woo takes a strange stance as he waits for the blow to approach. At the last second, the attack is stopped right in front of his face. Suddenly counterattacking, Go Hyun-woo lands a direct hit on his opponent. Using a water skill, he hurls his rival away with the current. After the blow, the two stare each other down from a distance in the large arena. Arriving suddenly, Kim Ho says that's enough and stops the fight. With a gesture, he tells them they can both rest for a bit. At that, both of them collapse, and the screen declares the team's victory. Even with the win, he considers it a defeat for not blocking the strike. Lying on the ground, he realizes he still has a way to go before he can evolve. On the other side of the arena, Jang Sam was also on the ground, defeated. Seeing the final score, he gets up and admits he truly lost the fight. Saying it was a good fight, he's told his friend would say the same. Before leaving, he asks if his skills were too obvious. Replying that they were, he comments on the strange way he held the sword. He then gets confused, not understanding what that meant exactly. Kim Ho then explains that being ordinary in a place like this would attract attention. Thanking him for the advice, Jang Sam says he'll take it into consideration. Remembering his promise, he says he'll challenge him again next time. Returning from the arena, his friend laments his shameful performance earlier. Analyzing the fight, Kim Ho says his movements were clean and precise. Looking at the sword, he comments that the weapon is a constant worry. Kim Ho then simply suggests that he just use a better sword. Stating that weapons can't be bought with money alone, he shows him an item. Then he asks how many points Go Hyun-woo has accumulated so far. Seeing the 5,000 points, he says that amount is more than enough. With the points, he buys 2 new swords and 3 more thermal reagents. Handing over the reagents, he explains he's going to create an item to help with his recovery. That night, he decides to go to the workshop to prepare the materials for the item. Arriving at the location, he greets the guy who was working there alone. Making small talk, he mentions hearing about the scolding he got from the president. Touching his back, he uses his ability to copy the creation technique. Now, with the new skill, he decides he can give up an old one. Searching the workshop, he sees that the parts from the abandoned items are intact. Picking up a part, he says that usually, getting materials is easier than dismantling. From across Across the room, the guy just watches Kim Ho handle the parts. Confused by the situation, he asks what he's doing there with those items. Curiously, he asks if he can watch while he dismantles the equipment. Seeing the materials, he's surprised by the cleanliness and perfection of the components. While working, Kim Ho decides he can test his colleague a little. Offering a trade, he asks if the senior wants to exchange some materials with him. Without hesitating, he starts listing all the items he needs for the project. Worried about the president, he's told that trading materials isn't a problem. He then suggests asking for permission to avoid any future problems with the leader. Showing his phone, he points out that the message was read but got no reply. Suddenly, the president arrives, kicking the door open and yelling at them both. Asking if he dismantled that, the president approaches to look at the items. Kim Ho then explains they are failures, but made with very expensive materials. At this, the president asks if he can dismantle it, but the guy says it takes a long time. Offering to pay for the work, Kim Ho says he knows how much time it all takes. With the deal made, the president asks for the list of materials he needs. He then tells him to send the list by message, saying there's no rush for now. Taking the opportunity, the other guy in the workshop also asks him for a favor. He asks him to dismantle an item, and Kim Ho agrees to help with it. The next morning, he leaves the workshop and decides to finish the work later. Going up the stairs, he thinks about sleeping, but suddenly sees someone in the room. He then finds Seo Yeon asleep at the table, wondering why she's there. Approaching her, he asks if she's had breakfast yet, and if she wants something to eat. Getting no response, he realizes she still hasn't gotten over yesterday's defeat. Seeing her cover her face, he says he just wanted to point out her weakness. Holding out the snack, he explains that she becomes vulnerable when her position is exposed. After his suggestion, she asks if she'll be getting special combat lessons. He then explains that another shooter would be more effective at teaching her right now. Taking the food, she finally agrees to the mentorship he suggested. As she eats, she signs up, and Go Hyun-woo praises her good decision. At this, Go Hyun-woo expresses his thanks, saying he's in perfect condition because of him. He says he's fine, but that he's going to test his new weapon in combat. Handing him an item, Kim Ho tells him to use that during the fight as well. Seeing it was a clip, he hears that the item protects equipment durability. A screen then pops up, showing the protection and recovery functions of the item. Clipping it onto his clothes, he thanks him and promises to put it to good use. In the combat arena, the scoreboard shows Go Hyun-woo's duo against their opponents. On the other side, Park Nari and her partner prepare for the start of the match. Remembering Kim Ho's warning, he braces himself to be careful with the spirit beast. Then Park Nari tells her tiger to get ready to attack soon. The small animal then leaps from her shoulder, landing on the arena floor. Suddenly, the small tiger transforms into a giant, menacing creature. With a leap, the enormous tiger lunges forward to attack Go Hyun-woo with its claws. Blocking the attack with his sword, he yells for his partner to attack now. Answering the call, his partner gets ready to use one of her special skills. With her hand, she strikes the tiger's face using an ice technique. Focusing her power, she continues her assault on the huge beast before her. With the attack, the summoner's health begins to drop quickly. The tiger then counterattacks, hitting her with its paw and throwing her far away. Seeing his partner in danger, Go Hyun-woo worriedly shouts her name. Thrown backward, he realizes the limits of his weapon against the beast. Kneeling on the ground, he uses his new sword to support himself after the blow. Approaching him, she says they don't stand a chance and need to change their method. Analyzing the fight, they realize their opponent's strategy is one of continuous recovery. They also notice that the summoner is left completely defenseless during combat. Getting an idea, they decide to attack the summoner directly to win the fight. The two of them then rush together to attack Park Nori and her partner. Seeing the attack, her partner activates an item to protect herself from the charge. Announcing she was expecting it, she creates a barrier of plants to defend herself. Without hesitation, the two attack the plant barrier with all their might. Using a combined attack, they try to break the defense with ice and sword. After the attack, he realizes the barrier won't break that easily. Suddenly, the giant tiger charges at Go Hyun-woo from behind. With their defeat, the final score screen appears, showing the match's result. The next day, he's lamenting his fight, but is told he fought well. He then asks Kim Ho what he would have done in the same situation. Kim Ho explains that the power difference between them was too severe. He continues, explaining how Park Na-ri has access to all the club's items. Hearing that, Go Hyun-woo understands that losing to such a well-prepared opponent was only natural. Kim Ho then says there are countermeasures for that strong combat strategy. Curious, Go Hyunwoo asks if there's really a way to achieve victory. He reveals the key is a magic sword, an essential debuff item. Surprised, his friend says he didn't even know that type of item existed. Pointing to the clip, he warns that the priority is to prevent the weapon from breaking. Go Hyunwoo then comments that a B-grade item won't be easy to get. Giving a thumbs up, Kim Ho says they can get it in the underground dungeons. Go Hyunwoo then remembers it's combat week, so they can't go now. He then explains that they don't have the necessary qualifications to enter yet. The underground dungeon is a real combat zone, where lives are at risk. Asking if there's no way, he's told it would be very difficult for now. With a smile, Kim Ho says that would be difficult to do officially. Then he suggests they can enter the place sneakily and illegally. Showing a message on his phone, he says he's going to call a specialized service. Arriving at the location, Shin Byung-cheol asks how he can help this time. With the plan in mind, he says he wants to enter a specific dungeon. Pointing to a file, he gives the number of the dungeon they want to raid. Checking his list, he's surprised to see it's a D-rank dungeon. The two remain silent, waiting for the expert's response. Kim Ho then says it will be just him and his friend, only 2 people. Accepting the request, he asks what the compensation for that commission will be. Saying it's not necessary, he mentions he still owes a favor from the other incident. Seeing the offer, he just smiles, knowing the plan worked. Shin Byung-cheol admits he's only been to the underground once, making Kim Ho suspicious. Telling him not to be careless, he promises to do his best on the job. Kim Ho then asks to add one more dungeon to the plan, number 104. Seeing it's a B-rank dungeon, he warns that he can't help at that level. Agreeing to talk to his boss, he says goodbye and schedules the meeting for Monday. After settling everything, Kim Ho asks if they should make their own plans too. He then explains that first, they'll enter the promised D-rank dungeon. Then he says he needs to negotiate with the Thief's Club and prepare the items. Despite knowing the risk, Go Hyunwoo says he is fully prepared for the challenge. Kim Ho then explains that coordination between them will be the most essential part. To help with preparation, he hands over the strategy guides for both dungeons. Placing a hand on the guides, he tells his friend to memorize everything without a single mistake. While confirming the materials list, Bong Jae-seok hears Kim Ho thank him for his help. Coming closer, he asks if he can watch for a bit while the work is being finished. With the item ready, Kim Ho holds it up and announces he's done. Surprised, Bong Jae-seok says he created another unusual item with those materials.
Analyzing the object, he asks if Kim Ho has already found the main body for it. Kim Ho replies that he'll take his time searching in the building's underground dungeon. Bong Jae-seok says he won't be coming anymore, and Kim Ho thanks him for all his help. Switching to the classroom, the professor announces that the theme for the week is extermination. He explains that both the terrain and the teammate will be completely random.
Slamming his hand on the desk, he ends the class and dismisses everyone to prepare for the dungeon. Go Hyunwoo comments that this time they won't be able to team up. Then Seo Ye-in wakes up and suggests a break from their mana bullet lessons. Agreeing, Go Hyunwoo says the focus for the week is to reinforce the fundamentals. Skipping training mode, Kim Ho decides to enter the real challenge directly. Already inside the portal, he assures himself that the mission's completion rate will be 100%. Looking at his skills, he decides to swap one out for a combat skill. Then, he turns to the portal, wondering who his partner for the mission will be. With a look of astonishment, he's shocked to see who just arrived. On the other side, Hong Yeon-hwa appears, also in disbelief that it's him again. Irritated, she yells, asking why it had to be Kim Ho once again. Seeing her reaction, he remembers the fights they had during the placement exams. Focused on the mission, he asks why she's still just standing there doing nothing. Startled by his tone, she just watches him, unsure how to react. He then informs her they're starting immediately, and she reluctantly agrees. Without wasting any more time, the two start running together through the dungeon forest. As she runs, she regrets insisting on finishing everything quickly that day. Looking at Kim Ho ahead, she complains about ending up with him of all people. Suddenly she stops and asks where he's going in such a hurry. Using a skill, he makes several monsters fall from the trees around them. In shock, she wonders what's happening with so many enemies appearing. Seeing that he's still running, she yells that there are still monsters left to fight. Annoyed, she complains that she was ignored and left to clean up the mess alone. With no other choice, she uses her magic to defeat the monsters surrounding her. Asking him to wait, she hears Kim Ho tell her to just follow him. Following him closely, she starts to think there's something strange about this test. She realizes he never hesitates, taking down a monster without slowing down. Attacking another enemy, she notices he keeps moving forward without any pause. With her staff, she eliminates another monster while trying to keep up with his pace. Then she understands that he acts as if he's done this hundreds of times before. Suddenly, he stops in front of her, and she almost bumps into him in surprise. Pointing to a hole, he says they need to check it out. Looking at the entrance, she says it looks like a goblin's den, far too small. He then tells her to go first to check, leaving her completely surprised. With an intimidating look, he asks if by any chance she doesn't want to go. Scared, she yells that she'll go in and starts crawling inside. Confused, he wonders why she went in, since he just wanted a spell from her. Suddenly, a bright light shines from inside the den, surprising him. Then, a fiery explosion destroys the entire den right in front of him. Emerging from the smoke, she wonders why she's even doing this kind of thing. Covered in dirt, she tries to convince herself it was no big deal. He says they were lucky to have found the den before the monsters came out. Seeing the notification, he realizes that now only the dungeon boss is left. When they least expect it, a huge axe comes flying towards them. In a swift move, he grabs her arm to pull her out of danger. Pulling her close, he warns her that she can't lose focus in here. Surprised by the situation, she apologizes while he's still holding her. He explains that the explosion must have revealed their location to the enemy. Then the dungeon boss appears, a giant orc holding an axe. Warning her that the target is easy, he suggests a joint attack to finish it. Seeing she's still out of breath, he notices she seems very tense. Noticing her tension, he decides he'll try to give her a bit of confidence. So he tells her to defeat the enemy by herself, leaving the girl in shock. Insisting she can do it, he encourages her to fight the dungeon boss. Finally agreeing to try, she takes a step forward to face the challenge. With Kim Ho watching from a distance, she starts gathering her energy for the attack. Focusing all her power, she prepares to use a special fire skill. Seeing the girl preparing, the dungeon boss turns in her direction. Suddenly, the orc lets out a roar, getting ready to start the big fight. Advancing with its axe, it realizes she has disappeared from in front of it. Then, she reappears right behind it, positioning herself for a quick counterattack. Dodging the blow, she leaps to the side and prepares for her next move. In midair, she hurls a large sphere of fire at the giant orc. Seeing the impact of the blow, she confirms it was a direct hit. Despite the attack, the dungeon boss remains standing, staring intently at her. Complaining about the design, she wonders if the dungeon has damage reduction. With its axe raised, the orc charges toward the girl again to attack. Dodging overhead, she says she needs to end this before the effect wears off. Just then, the orc and a clone throw their axes at her at the same time. Seeing she's not going to dodge, Kim Ho prepares to create a barrier. Jumping in front, he blocks the attacks and tells her not to let her guard down. Thanking him for his help, she seems relieved to have survived the surprise attack. He then suggests she use that other technique he knows so well. Mentioning the pillar of fire, he makes her uncomfortable with an old memory. She says the range is limited, but he assures her he'll hold the enemy down. Leaping toward the orc, he tells her to just focus on the power. With a flick of his fingers, he manages to immobilize the dungeon boss for a moment. She decides to focus to do her part and prepares the fire magic. Noticing the magic circle, the orc roars and prepares to escape. Kim Ho shouts for her not to worry and to keep going even with the monster reacting. Apologizing, he uses a skill to lock the dungeon boss in place. He tells the orc that this little game will have to last a bit longer. Completely trapped in the circle, the monster is now at the center of her attack. She yells that the circle is ready and tells him to get out of there fast. Even with his resistance, he decides to do as she asked and move away. At that moment, the orc tries to break the magic barrier with a powerful blow. Running out, he asks if the distance is safe, and she confirms it is. With her staff in hand, she prepares to end it all in a single blow. Then she finally unleashes her strongest technique, the pillar of fire. Hit head-on, the dungeon boss is completely engulfed in flames. Seeing the result, Kim Ho says it was exactly as he expected. The massive amount of fire completely consumes the area of the magic circle on the ground. With the score panel in front of her, she says with relief that it's finally over. He comments that the fight ended quickly and that she did very well, but he also notices that she seems to have overexerted herself a bit. Calling out to him, she hesitates a bit before saying what she really needs to. She says she has a favor to ask, and he asks why she's taking so long. Remembering the embarrassment, she recalls crawling into that dark den. Then, very embarrassed, she asks him to set the replay to private, assuring him she'll make it up to him. She says she'll cover any point loss for it. With that, she hands him a ruby, saying it's worth much more than the replay. Holding the gem, he thinks giving a ruby just for that is overkill. Seeing his expression, she asks if by any chance that's still not enough. She offers a larger ruby, but he stops her and says it's fine. With a thumbs up, he praises Hong Yanhua, saying it was a good job. Embarrassed, she says he did everything from the start, so it was nothing. Saying he also worked hard, she says goodbye and enters the portal. After she leaves, he admits her movements exceeded his expectations. He reveals that her combat helped him decide which skill to copy. Although he doesn't know its full power, he says he now has a fire ability too. Revealing his new skill, he realizes his physical strength will also increase greatly. But putting that aside, he now wonders what to do with the ruby. Deciding to go to the tower later, He remembers the dungeon he needs to clear today. Arriving at the dungeon building, he decides to check his reward while waiting for his friends. With a new slot opened up, he hopes to copy a useful trait in the next dungeon. Suddenly, a voice from behind calls out, asking what his problem is. Shin Byung-cheol complains about the wait, but Go Hyun-woo says that Kim Ho arrived first. Saying it's getting late, Shin Byung-cheol urges everyone to start heading down. Before they go, he says he has something important to give them both. He then shows them the items and tells them both to use them immediately. He explains the items make their faces look generic, avoiding trouble with veterans. Seeing his blurred face, Go Hyun-woo is sure that no one will find out who they are. Now properly prepared, Kim Ho asks if they can finally start heading down. Going down the stairs, one of them asks if they have much further to go, and he confirms they're close. Go Hyun-woo is impressed, realizing just how deep the other levels must be. Kim Ho explains they can't use the teleporters because they snuck in. He adds that a good guide could probably hack it, but Shin Byung-cheol hurries the group along. Thanking them for waiting, he points and announces they've arrived at Dungeon 388. He then reveals that the name of the place is the Altar of the Feathered Serpent. Relieved they weren't caught, Kim Ho says they can start the strategy. Suddenly, a voice shouts, asking what the hell that guy is doing there. Seeing two students emerge, they hear complaints about a skill that messed everything up. Confused, the other group's leader stops and stares at the trio that just arrived. Realizing the disguise is working, Kim Ho hears them commenting on the trio's presence. Go Hyun-woo suggests they go in quickly, but Shin Byung-cheol tells him to wait a bit. Taking out an item, he says he needs to take care of the security system first. With the device activated, he confirms he's disabled the area's security devices. Deciding to stand guard, he hears Kim Ho promise they'll be back soon. With no time to waste, the two start moving quickly through the dungeon's forest. Pointing to a structure, he says that's the core they need to reach. He warns him about the barbarians, and Go Hyun-woo confirms he read about them in the guide. Hidden among the trees, one of the barbarians readies his bow for a surprise attack. Almost getting hit, he sees a magic arrow fly right past him. Hitting the tree right behind him, the projectile shows the attack was accurate. He comments that they showed up as soon as he mentioned them. Pointing in their direction, the leader yells that they are sacrifices and orders their capture. Surrounded, he questions why they're using spears if the order is to capture them alive. Then, the group of barbarians charges at the two of them, shouting about the sacrifice. Go Hyun-woo asks if they should stick to the plan, and Kim Ho agrees to start. Preparing a skill, Kim Ho uses his hand to launch their counterattack. With a quick gesture, he manages to deflect a spear coming his way. Without wasting time, Go Hyun-woo draws his sword to face all the enemies. Spinning with his weapon, he easily strikes several barbarians at once. Go Hyun-woo wishes him good luck, and hears Kim Ho wish him the same. Seeing their strength, the leader yells that they need to capture both of them alive. Declaring himself their opponent, Go Hyun-woo warns that he'll end this quickly. They split up according to the plan, each taking a different route. He remembers that to clear the dungeon, they need to stop their ritual. Even though he knows the standard route works, he has a much bigger goal, but he explains that way they wouldn't be able to get the dungeon's secret piece. That's why he's searching in places others ignore, like the barbarian camp. Seeing only a few guards, he figures the rest will be no match for Go Hyun-woo. Arriving by surprise, he greets the guards, who call him a strong sacrifice. With spears coming at him, he asks if that's all they know how to say. Stating he has no interest in the weaker ones, he prepares for the real fight. With a single gesture, he throws the guards away and tells them to call their chief. Taking down two more enemies, he confirms the plan is going as expected. Then he finds a much larger tent and concludes it must be the chief's. Without hesitation, he slices open the tent's entrance with a single, precise strike. Taking advantage of the opening, he leaps inside the tent to face his target. Inside, the chief says he'll be a good sacrifice if he doesn't resist. Complaining about the topic, he asks if they have anything else to talk about. To get the secret piece, he needs to keep the chief busy for a while. Needing to buy time, he dodges the attacks while waiting for Go Hyun-woo. Realizing the attack isn't elemental, he knows a single hit could be fatal, but with his skills maxed out, he easily blocks the blow. Dodging the attack, he says a blow of this level is nothing to him. He continues to trade blows with the chief, who defends himself with a barrier. In a direct attack, he lands a solid hit on the enemy's barrier. From the impact, the chief's barrier shatters completely into pieces. He notes that his new skill can easily break D-rank barriers. Still, he notices the attack didn't do much damage to the chief. Hearing the chief talk about defense, he says the enemy is being careless. Taunting the barbarian chief, he keeps all the attention on himself. Annoyed, the chief threatens him, but Kim Ho just notes his intense anger. Revealing his tactic, he explains that enemies flee if you just dodge them. So to prevent that, the secret is to make them him really angry. Dodging the blows, he explains it gets harder to evade the angrier the enemy is. Trusting his partner, he says the rest is now up to Go Hyun-woo. The scene changes to Go Hyun-woo, climbing the blood-stained altar steps without stopping. With his face smeared with blood, he continues on his way without hesitation. Leaving several fallen enemies behind, he finally reaches the top of the stairs. Vowing to complete the mission, he's suddenly surprised by something. Just then, a giant man appears and attacks with a huge tree trunk. Struggling, Go Hyun-woo manages to block the strike with his sword. He parries the attack, knocking the enemy off balance and sending him flying. Spotting another enemy, he figures it must be the sub-priest. As he faces him, he knows he needs to get a crucial item here. He explains that his objective is to obtain the hidden item known as the shaman's sword. According to the strategy guide, he knows there is another sub-boss nearby. Suddenly, something strikes his sword with great force, shattering the blade. Seeing the object, he wonders if that's a poison needle. Just as he predicted, the other sub-priest, a thin man, appears. He remarks that facing them both at once is tough. He wanted to take his time, but now he needs a quick, decisive, and flawless battle. Without hesitation, the thin enemy shoots a poison dart from his blowgun. With a swift movement, Go Hyun-woo dodges the surprise attack. Barely dodging the dart, he senses the attack coming from behind. He ducks just in time, narrowly escaping the giant's strike. Falling back, he mutters that the two of them together are a real problem. He decides he has no choice but to push himself harder. Shouting, he dodges another dart as the big guy approaches again. Then, he closes his eyes for a moment, beginning to focus his strength. Suddenly, he opens his eyes, unleashing a surprising attack on his foes. The new technique leaves the larger enemy completely paralyzed, unable to react. Leaping between them, he lands a powerful strike on the duo. After the strike, both enemies fall to the ground, and he moves in. He says he's dealt with them, but reminds himself he can't let his guard down. Just then, the giant gets up, and he says they don't go down easy. He decides to grab the item first and makes a dash for the altar. Enraged, the giant enemy lets out a scream and prepares to attack. As he reaches for the item, the giant attacks him. Coming down with full force, the trunk smashes the altar, raising a cloud of dust. The giant stares at the spot he just forcefully destroyed. Suddenly, a line cuts through the trunk, splitting it in two. The giant is completely shocked, unable to understand what just happened. Holding the hidden piece, Go Hyun-woo says that was a close call. Addressing his new weapon, he declares it's time to end this fight. As the enemy screams in rage, he moves in for the decisive blow. With the new sword, he delivers an attack that finally defeats the giant. Leaving the fallen opponent, he turns away, his mission finally complete. The scene shifts to the altar village, now completely destroyed after the fight. Meanwhile, Kim Ho is in the middle of a very intense fight. He complains that the enemy just keeps running away, and figures Go Hyun-woo must have the sword by now. Suddenly, the enemy leader stops and looks to the side, sensing something. Sensing the energy, he yells that the shaman sword from the altar has been taken. Seeing the notification, Kim Ho notes that he passed the test. Saying he'll copy the trait first, he prepares to use his ability. Copying the priest's ability, he says the increased sensitivity is useful. Seeing the enemy run to the altar, Kim Ho stops him and asks where he's going. Warning that there's nothing left there, he prepares to end the fight. Then he launches a powerful fire attack directly at the dungeon boss. With the enemy defeated, the dungeon completion message finally appears for him. Just then, Go Hyun-woo arrives, and Kim Ho says he's right on time. Surprised by the sword, he hears Kim Ho explain that it absorbed the soul. Showing the new stats, Kim Ho says the weapon's performance has been improved. Then he points to the boxes, explaining they are the completion reward. Looking at the weapon, Go Hyun-woo says the sword alone is more than enough. He then offers the rest of the rewards, and Kim Ho gladly accepts. Telling them to leave, he warns that cleared dungeons collapse after a while. Exiting the portal, Lee Sudok greets them, saying they were very fast. Go Hyun-woo is surprised to see the portal close behind them. Explaining how it works, he says the dungeon entrance closes for a while. Worried, Lee Sudok warns that the trait leaves evidence that can't be erased. At this, Kim Ho says they need to get out of there fast before someone shows up. Finally reaching the top, the professor complains that the stairs are a huge problem. Walking down the hall, he keeps saying that going up is much harder than going down. Relieved, Shin Byung-cheol says that luckily they didn't run into anyone on the way back. Returning the items, Go Hyun-woo thanks him, saying he made it back safely. With a smile, Shin Byung-cheol replies that it was nothing, as that's his job. Suddenly, Han So-mi and Song Cheon-hai appear, waving and saying goodbye. Seeing the two of them, Shin Byung-cheol gets nervous and wonders why it had to be now. With a serious posture, Song Cheon-hae asks what they're doing there so late. Replying with a smile, Shin Byung-cheol says he obviously came to clear dungeons. Asking for help, he nudges Kim Ho to stop being quiet and say something. Thinking he's just passing the buck, he winks and decides to handle the situation himself. Asking if they were also on their way back, he says the percentage doesn't matter now. Shin Byung-cheol then asks why she wants to know something like that. She then guarantees that, regardless of his score, hers will be much higher. Proposing a bet, he asks if she's in, and she immediately asks about the prize. She suggests the loser has to do a favor or answer any question. He then agrees and says they'll show their screens on the count of 3. Staring at her, Kim Ho begins the countdown saying 3, then 2. Finishing the count at 1, they both activate their progress windows simultaneously. In shock, she sees his screen showing 100% progress. Telling her she looks shocked, he takes the opportunity to make a quick exit. As he leaves, he tells her he'll save the wish voucher as a debt she owes him. The next day, he shows up holding a cup at a coffee shop in town. Seeing his friends, Kim Ho says that resting is also part of training. Answering their question, he says he wants to show them another appeal of dungeons. With a smile, he says it's the fun of opening the boxes. Summoning the rewards, he asks if they can begin the opening ceremony now. Starting with the first one, he opens a box that begins to emit a light. Meanwhile, Go Hyun-woo and Seo Ye-in watch everything with great attention. Revealing the prize, the item that comes out of the box is a rank-up scroll. Moving on to the next one, he gets ready to open the second reward box. At that moment, Go Hyun-woo and Seo Ye-in are very surprised by what happens. This time, he gets a rare bracelet that belonged to an ancient priest. Analyzing the items, he comments that he got much more than he expected. Turning to his friends, he offers a box for each of them to open. Accepting the offer, Go Hyun-woo thanks him and starts to open his box. Seeing the wooden cup, Kim Ho comments that he has no luck at all. When it's her turn, Seo Ye-in apologizes, but he tells her not to worry. Embarrassed, Go Hyun-woo says he's never had a knack for this kind of thing. But when she opens the box, a bright light surprises both friends. Taking out the item, she asks if it's a B-rank cushion. Analyzing the item, Kim Ho says it's a miracle to get this from a D-rank box. Looking at its stats, he says it would be perfect for combat, but it's for sleeping. Then he says that life skill items have a good market and can be sold. While thinking about where to sell it, he suddenly notices something in her expression. He observes Seo Ye-in's fixed gaze on the cushion that came out of the box. Seeing her interest, he asks directly if she happens to want the item. Seeing her rest her head on the table, he thinks it might be better to just give her the cushion. He says that with the recovery effect, she could reduce her daily sleep time. With more time awake, her training efficiency would also improve greatly. Making up his mind, he offers her the item, much to her surprise. Confirming it's a gift, he hands the cushion to his new friend. Taking the item, she remains silent for a moment, just staring at him. Then she hugs the cushion tightly and thanks him for the unexpected gesture. Suddenly he's startled when his pocket starts vibrating with a call. Seeing that it's Shin Byung-cheol, he answers, wondering what could have happened. On the phone, he asks if Kim Ho can come to the club room. Warning that things have gotten complicated, he says the leader wants to see him. Arriving at the club room, Dang Yu-young greets him and says she was expecting him. Meanwhile, the other club members start whispering about his arrival. One of them mentions that she even fought with the Magatech club to defend him. Then, another member says they've never seen the leader act that way for anyone. Suddenly, the boy who was talking too much is silenced by a mysterious sash. Annoyed by the commotion, she orders everyone to leave the room immediately. She tells him not to mind them, and he agrees without complaint. But she gets annoyed, saying he should care a little more about it. Saying she'll get straight to the point, she begins to explain the whole situation. She informs him that a problem has come up with the request for the Serpent's Chamber. Asking about the bid, he learns that it's a priority bid. At that moment, he realizes that things have just gotten much more complicated. It's then explained that there's always competition for dungeons with good rewards. To resolve these disputes, the Academy introduced a very specific bidding system. By ranking groups by their success rate, the basic system organizes entry. But there's a priority bidding right that can override all other conditions. Using this right, a group can ignore the rules and challenge the dungeon first. He then understands that a priority bid has been placed on the Serpent's Chamber. Stating that getting in isn't the problem, she says the club will fight back. She then reveals that the club that placed the bid was the fencing club. Then, she warns him that it's a strong club and asks if he'll still go through with it. Without hesitation, he confirms that he will, and says he wants to force their way in. Questioning if he's sure, he assures her he'll handle all the consequences. Agreeing with the plan, she says he must have some good method in mind. With a smile, she stands up and decides they'll simply go all out. Surprised, Shin Byung-cheol asks if she's going, and she confirms that she will too. Warning him about the costs, She hears him agree they should do it right. Asking about her partner, she finds out it's Go Hyunwoo this time. Analyzing the situation, she says they might be able to handle a B-rank dungeon. At that, Dabin questions if a rookie can clear a dungeon like this. Recalling the past, she says she saw him in the warehouse, but he was wearing a mask. Whispering to him, she asks if she can tell the secret, and he allows it. Preparing Dabin for the news, she asks the girl to listen carefully. Then she reveals that Kim Ho is the famous Infernal Fist, shocking everyone. Placing the guide on the table, he says, everyone needs to look at the document. Astonished, the leader asks where he got a complete strategy guide. Explaining the plan, she says their main objective is to get in and extract everything. Concluding her thought, she says their mission is no different from a heist. Saying he's the ideal talent for it, she comments that the plan is deceitful. Warning that he won't go in, he hears that his intuition is very good. Analyzing the guide, she agrees his strategy will reduce direct combat. Shocked, Shin Byung-cheol shouts, asking if he has to go to the dungeon too. Scared, he says a B-rank dungeon is a matter of life and death. Crossing his arms, he refuses and yells that there's no way he's going. Kim Ho then warns that he'll regret it, but he turns down the mission. Mentioning the item, he says the reward is the shadowless ghost. It's then explained that this is a secret item highly valuable to thieves. Surprised, she asks if that thing really exists, and he quickly confirms it does. She then says they can't miss this, and calls out for Shin Byung-cheol. Changing his tune, he says a real man accepts great challenges. Welcoming him, Kim Ho sets the meeting for Friday night. On Friday, the scene shifts to the mana training room. Meditating, he says he needs to prepare for the deep layer dungeon. With the new trait, he says he'll quickly accumulate mana to get stronger. Using the priest's bracelet, his goal is to increase the grade of his core. Then he picks up the scroll, saying he'll use it to improve his amplification. Seeing his skills improve, he says he has finally completed all his preparations. Leaving the training center, he believes he's ready for the dungeon. Just then, Go Hyunwoo finds him and is surprised to see him training too. Praising his friend, Kim Ho says it's impressive that he trains until the very end. While training, Go Hyunwoo explains he was getting used to his new weapon. After training, he assures them he can now use it in combat without any difficulty. Saying the preparations are done, Kim Ho calls his friend to go with him. Shifting to the dungeon building, the group prepares for the night raid. Gathering everyone, the leader announces that if they're ready, they can go now. Go Hyunwoo asks if everything is okay, and he replies that they don't need items. Telling him to just watch, she says everyone will understand the plan soon. Using her butterfly flight, she envelops everyone to enter unseen. Entering the dungeon, the shadow butterflies begin to scout the entire area. Understanding the plan, Go Hyunwoo says they're doing reconnaissance. With the path clear, the group leader yells for everyone to move forward. Checking for traps, Dabin uses her skill to disable the security mechanisms. Following the butterflies, they advance carefully through the dark, circular dungeon. Suddenly, the leader stops and orders everyone to halt their advance immediately. Announcing she'll guard the entrance, she says it's up to them now. She then warns that the dimension ahead will be much more dangerous now. Wishing them luck, she tells everyone to meet up alive at the end of this. Taking the first step, he passes through the portal and enters the Serpent's Chamber. Right behind, Go Hyunwoo and Shin Byung-cheol enter the dungeon for the mission. Seeing his nervous friend, he notes that his behavior changed after entering. Thinking it's because of the dungeon's rank, he decides he needs to cheer him up. Turning to his friend, he calls his name to get his attention. Asking if he's scared, Kim Ho tries to provoke his competitive spirit. Denying he's scared, he asks what Kim Ho is talking about. But Kim Ho points out his legs are shaking, and he claims it's just a habit. Forcing a smile, he assures everyone he's feeling perfectly fine. Suddenly, the trio comes across a new area and is quite surprised. Seeing a bustling city, they wonder if this is the Serpent's Chamber. Go Hyunwoo then says something is strange, as the place should be full of life. Noticing the inhabitants, he observes that the atmosphere is strangely silent. Explaining the incidents, he says they need to use this situation to their advantage. Heading to their first destination, they follow the strategy to achieve their goal. Arriving at the location, the attendant then asks what they want, and he orders 3 duck soups. Smiling, the young man confirms the order and says he'll prepare everything right away. At another table, a group comments that the men will come for the boy soon. They then confirm that the next target to be taken is the attendant. Bringing the food, he announces the order is ready, surprising everyone. Explaining the speed, he says his father prepares everything, but he's interrupted. Suddenly, a group of masked men enters and asks about their business. Startled, the attendant says the tribute was paid, but they've come for something else. Asking if it's them, Go Hyunwoo hears that they are the chamber's warriors. Ordering the young man to come, they surround him so he can't escape. Just then, the boy's father runs in, desperately shouting for them to stop. Pleading for his son's life, the father is restrained by one of the warriors. With a hand on his face, The warrior prepares for a brutal attack. Without any mercy, he lands a violent knee strike right in the man's face. Falling to the ground from the impact, the boy's father passes out instantly. Telling him to come along, the other warrior threatens the young man not to hesitate. Showing his sword, he makes it clear what will happen if he resists. With no choice, the boy is taken by the warriors while his father lies on the floor. On his knees, the father can only grieve as he watches his son leave. Approaching the man, Kim Ho calls out to get his full attention. He then confidently assures him that the group will bring his son back. Desperate, the man promises to give them everything he has if they succeed. With a smile, Kim Ho warns him that he can't back out. Making a discreet signal, he indicates that the plan is proceeding as expected. Seeing they haven't gone far, he tells the group to follow them immediately. Realizing they've gone to an empty place, he warns that they've already been noticed. Saying it's better this way, he walks toward the kidnappers without hesitation. At that, the kidnapper asks if they've come to play the hero. Kim Ho replies that he couldn't just stand by, as injustice should not be tolerated. Calling it a foolish move, the two warriors advance to attack with their swords. But he warns them not to damage the clothes, and Go Hyun-woo acknowledges the request. Using his skill, he stops the enemy's sword, who looks quite surprised. The warrior says tricks are useless, but Kim Ho already manages to grab him. Dodging the blow, he prepares to counterattack with a swift move. Grabbing the enemy's face, he leaves him completely paralyzed and unable to react. Then he lands a powerful blow, knocking the warrior to the ground at once. Saying he's done, he notices the fight isn't over on the other side yet. With a shout, Shin Byung-chil charges to attack the last remaining enemy. He hits the warrior, but takes a strong blow to the stomach in return. Stating they can't use their swords, he just watches the fight continue. He then comments that his two friends' fight is getting messy. Sighing, he prepares to intervene, but the fight finally ends. Seeing the defeated enemies, Shin Byung-chil doubts they were weak warriors, but they were. With the situation resolved, he tells everyone to head back to the restaurant. Back at the restaurant, the son runs and cries out for his father on the floor. Hugging his son, the man thanks the group profusely for rescuing the boy. Interrupting the moment, Kim Ho says they need to settle the rescue fee. Pointing to a statue, he says he'll just take that item. Agreeing instantly, the man says they can take whatever they want. Thanking him for the item, he announces they will now finish their meal in peace. As they eat, Go Hyun-woo comments that the statue doesn't seem ordinary. Analyzing the object, he says it seems to be used for some kind of formation. Confirming the suspicion, Kim Ho says it's a key for specific formations. Go Hyun-woo then says the statue is much more than a simple key. Explaining about the statue, he tells his friend to keep it for later use. After finishing their meal, they finally prepare for the next mission. Arriving at the Serpent's Chamber, he asks if they can now begin for real. Announcing he will review the plan, he says everyone has already memorized the guide. He then explains that his task is to distract the main forces and the master. Meanwhile, the others will use diversionary tactics to grab all the target items. But the big difference, he warns, is that the master is too strong. Therefore, he says they will finish the mission in a very different way. He then orders them to equip the communicator and keep the escape scroll safe. Stating he will act alone, he asks them to contact him if anything happens. Even with the strategy, he stresses that everyone needs to be very careful. Hearing this, Go Hyun-woo wishes him good luck on the mission he'll face alone. Already in front of the chamber, a masked guard blocks his path. From atop the wall, he faces the guard who asks who he is. Seeing him come down, the guard shouts again, and he readies his fist. Threatening to make him kneel, the guard warns that silence won't protect him. He just smiles as his fist becomes completely engulfed in flames. Seeing the opponent's power, the guard is left completely paralyzed and unable to react. Without hesitation, he launches his attack, throwing the guard into the chamber. As the fire spreads, the building begins to be consumed by the flames. He comments that it burns well, noting how interesting it is to watch the fire. Seeing they can't find him, he decides he'll have to help them out a little. Whistling to get their attention, he prepares for the next phase of his plan. Shouting loudly, he warns everyone that this is an enemy attack. Seeing the guards arrive, he says they're trying to win with numbers. Surrounded by the warriors, he simply replies that he already told them it's an enemy attack. Calling him crazy, the group's leader orders everyone to attack now. Agreeing that they're not wrong, he gets ready for the fight to begin. Dodging their blows, he says he'll see what they've got. Leaping into the middle of them all, he prepares for an area of effect attack. Let's play a little crazier, he says, concentrating power into his fist. With a strike to the ground, he unleashes a wave of fire that hits everyone. Leaving the enemies fallen, he walks calmly through the courtyard. Commenting on the mess, he says the boss must have noticed by now. Finally appearing, The master asks if he is the disciple of the Flame Tyrant. Seeing him, Kim Ho taunts that he has caused a lot of violence at the headquarters. The master then warns that he may have appeared, but he will pay for the damage with his life. Realizing the confusion, he wonders if the master misunderstood everything because of the name. With a smile, he says he has no answer for him right now. Calling him arrogant, the master prepares to attack with all his strength. Shouting for him to answer, the master charges forward, attacking with his claws. Barely dodging, he complains that a sudden attack is too much for him. Surprised, the master praises his skill in managing to dodge such an attack. Analyzing the claws, he realizes the technique combines poison and is very dangerous. Challenging him, the master tells him to try and dodge the next attack. Watching the enemy advance, he says he just needs to dodge the attacks well. Irritated, the master says he's a fast runner and he agrees. Suddenly, he asks why the master doesn't wash his dirty hands. Shocked, the master looks at his claws and is left completely speechless. Giving an ultimatum, he says he doesn't want to get near the master right now. Enraged, the chamber master promises he will ensure a very painful death. Commenting that he's slow, Kim Ho continues to dodge every attack. Then he reveals that he'll just keep running until he hears from Go Hyun Woo. He says he just needs to keep the master's attention focused on him for the tactic to work. Seeing the master's suspicion, he knows the distraction tactic could be discovered. Realizing it's time, he says he also needs to land a blow now. Challenging his enemy, he says he's going to show his true combat skills. Seeing the new technique, the master confirms that he is the tyrant's disciple. Replying with a smile, he says the master can think whatever he wants. Leaping into the air, he prepares to attack the master from above. The master then says that in the air, his movements are completely useless and attacks. With a confident smile, he turns in mid-air for a surprise counterattack. Shifting his position in the air, he narrowly manages to evade the blow. "Is that so?" he asks, preparing for the final blow in mid-air. Combining his skills, he strikes the master with his Hell Fist in mid-air. Landing on the ground, he says the blow connected, but it's not enough. He explains that the master is B rank for a very specific and dangerous reason. His identity, in fact, is that of a survivor from a great ancient war. Seeing his move, the master says his aerial movement is good. Surprised by the air walk, the master admits he underestimated his opponent. Correcting his enemy, Kim Ho reveals that the master is the horn of the demonic cult. With his identity exposed, the master unleashes his power and vows to kill him. Meanwhile, the guards rush to put out the fire spreading through the gate. Having infiltrated, Go Hyun Woo and Shin Byung Cheol say they got through without any trouble. Seeing a door, they believe it's the entrance to their secret vault. Shouting about the gate, Shin Byung Cheol pretends to warn the guard about an attack. Without a word, the guard turns and just stares at the two intruders. Revealing he knows everything, he says that they must be the intruders from the gate. Praising their stealth, he warns them that their luck runs out right here. Shocked, Shin Byung Cheol wonders how the guard noticed their presence. The guard then explains that many have already lost their heads in this very place. He also says he doesn't remember seeing anyone like Go Hyun Woo. At this, Shin Byung Cheol complains that his friend got caught for being too handsome. Thanking him for the compliment, Go Hyun Woo prepares for the fight to begin. Moving quickly, he strikes the guard with a precise blow to his back. Warning that he needs to defeat him, he draws his new sword to fight. Seeing his friend at the door, he asks how long he's been watching. Shin Byung Cheol replies that he was called in as a technician, not to use his sword. Go Hyun Woo then says he knows that, and that he's a valuable asset. He then comments that his expectations for his friend are very high now. Challenged, Shin Byung Cheol tells his friend to watch closely what he's about to do. Showing off his tools, he prepares for his grand technician's performance. Unlocking the door, Shin Byung Cheol uses his tool while Dang Gyu Young watches. Very carefully, he uses his tools to pick the gate's complex lock. Successfully opening the door, he looks back with a confident smile. Dang Gyu Young then asks if he's done, and he confirms they can go in now. Walking down the hall, she remarks that it's unexpected for there to be no security devices. Without realizing it, she steps on a pressure plate, activating a hidden trap. Just then, she notices a strange glint coming from the wall right beside her. Suddenly, a projectile whizzes past, narrowly missing her and hitting the wall near her face. Startled, she comments that things would have gotten very dangerous without his help. He then warns her that it's risky to let her guard down, and she agrees to trust him. Telling her to follow him, he tells her to pay close attention. She agrees, a bit nervously. Pointing to the floor, he tells her to step on a specific stone in the hallway. Then, he gives a series of commands, ending with the order for her to pull now. As the trap is triggered, he runs down the corridor, dodging moving blades. Once on the other side, he lets her know the path is clear for her to cross. She remarks that his skill with mechanisms is incredible, and he replies proudly. Reaching a dead end, She asks about the way forward, and he explains. Asking her to cut the wall, he says he'll take care of the rest of the mechanism there. With a single strike, she shatters the wall and asks if that was enough. Seeing the secret door, he confirms it was and says he'll take it from there. But first, he asks for the statue they received, and she hands it over promptly. He then uses his tools on the gears, thinking the statue is a component. After disassembling a few parts, he finally prepares to insert the statue into the right slot. Fitting the statue in place, the door mechanism activates and the gears begin to turn. Then the vault door opens, revealing a room completely filled with treasure. Inside the room, he's amazed by the amount of valuable items scattered around. She warns him, saying they can't risk their lives for all this treasure. Pointing to a chest, he explains that the black talisman is a poison trap. Speaking to himself, he scolds himself for coveting the item, which leaves her confused. Searching the area, she remembers there should be a chest with no traps. Looking to the side, she finally finds the box she was looking for among the items. Grabbing the object, she confirms it's the right chest, just as the strategy said. Running for the exit, she says that following the strategy isn't difficult at all. He then remarks that it would be more interesting if something showed up, making her very worried. Annoyed, she tells him to shut up, and he simply apologizes. Suddenly, she stops running, and he asks what's wrong. Seeing what she saw, he is also surprised and asks if that's even possible. Just then, they see a figure standing in the doorway, and he wonders who it could be. Standing there, the man asks if they've done the job, and he confirms they have. Suspiciously, she asks if he is perhaps an elder of the demonic cult. Then she recognizes him, saying he is Senior Beck Hyok Seo, the White Serpent. It turns out he is the vice master of the chamber, and one of the cult's veteran masters, an existence that not even the master can control. He wanders the place aimlessly. At that moment, she realizes they've had terrible luck, encountering the worst possible opponent. With a level impossible to estimate, a fight against him would be a certain defeat. Telling him to get away, she prepares herself, but he asks what will happen to her. Declaring she'll handle it, she draws her sword with a determined expression. Impressed, he praises her skill, for which she thanks her master and friends, but he says it's a shame to have to end such a promising talent. Then he prepares to attack, telling her to blame her bad luck for running into him. Offering her the first move, he waits. She accepts, saying she will receive his lesson. Leaping through the air, she descends with a powerful attack towards her opponent. Seeing the attack, he comments that her technique is far from ordinary and quite powerful. However, he moves swiftly and deflects her blow with his own technique. Surprised, she realizes he's using a flexible sword to block her direct attack. Using the snake technique, he strikes at her with impressive speed and precision. As she is hit, she spits blood and realizes how reckless her attack was. Showing no mercy, he tells her to prepare for the next blow. Fallen on the ground, she understands that the difference in their levels is simply too great. Wiping the blood from her mouth, she decides she'll face him with her best move. Preparing her attack, she focuses her energy into her sword with a determined smile. Seeing her stance, he praises the move but warns that it won't be enough against him. He then launches his own attack, forcing her to brace for the powerful impact. Suddenly, she notices a crucial detail in her powerful opponent's movement. She then understands that his movement is the same as the lines on the statue. Among all the lines, one of them perfectly overlaps with the trajectory of his sword. In that instant, she finds the exact point she needed to counterattack effectively. Using her technique, she releases a stream of energy to intercept the incoming attack. With a fluid motion, she manages to parry and counterattack with her own special skill. Impressed, he admits that for someone her age, her move was truly incredible. Though wounded, she leans on her sword, and he says she can be proud, but he decides to fight seriously, saying it would be an insult to keep holding back now. A powerful energy then suddenly begins to emanate from the old master's body. Feeling the pressure, she realizes his energy is strong enough to injure her. Before her, the image of an enormous serpent forms, ready for the final attack. Facing the energy serpent, she knows she can't block this final blow, but she refuses to give up, remembering the will left by her former master. Thinking of the friends who trust her, her determination grows even stronger in that moment. With a shout, she readies herself, declaring she's not ready to fall yet. Seeing her reaction, he readies his sword and warns that this will be the last one. Creating an energy barrier, she braces herself to take the attack head-on. He then recognizes the technique, saying it's a move to deflect attacks. Doubting her defense, he warns that there will be no mercy in the final blow. With a powerful yell, he warns that she will be defeated right here. Then, he launches his strongest attack, a dragon-shaped blast of energy. To steady herself, she places her other hand on the hilt of her sword. Hit head-on, she's dragged backward by the force of the impact. Even injured, she faces her opponent with a firm and utterly determined expression. After the impact, she manages to stay on her feet, despite the massive destruction on the ground. After coughing up blood, she glares at the master, who seems surprised by the outcome. Without even needing to draw the sword from her back, she prepares for the final confrontation. Using the scabbard itself, she manages to receive her powerful opponent's ultimate technique. At the moment of impact, she feels a strange presence blocking the blow between them. Looking at the weapon, he says that sword must be a famous blade. As she recovers, he wonders about the identity of the sword and its owner. Declaring the fight over, he decides not to ask any more questions about it. Then he simply turns and tells her to leave, leaving the girl utterly confused. Reminding her, he says the previous technique was the last one, and that he keeps his word. In that moment, he reaffirms that it was truly the last attack of the fight. Finally understanding what he meant, she is surprised by the master's attitude. Telling her to grab her friend and leave, he says he won't pursue them. As they move away, Shin Byung-cheol asks if the old man won't attack them from behind. With her back turned, she says she will visit again, and he replies that he will eagerly await her. Finally leaving the gate, she remarks that the old master doesn't mess around. Thankfully, there are no pursuers, so he suggests they rest a bit before moving on. Offering a potion, he tells her to drink it to recover quickly. After she drinks it, he explains it was a high-level potion from his inventory. Feeling much better, she thanks him, and he responds with a confident smile. She then comments that his loss was great, but he says he had no choice. Jokingly, she says he's bold, and he replies that he acts when he needs to. Changing the subject, he asks if she's really coming back, and she confirms she is. He then questions if the old man will remember, mentioning the fencing club in the dungeon. According to him, when the dungeon regenerates, all memories of their encounter will disappear. But she replies that it doesn't matter, because the fight between them isn't truly over. To her, he spared them so they could compete again when she was much stronger. With a smile, she promises that one day she will return to settle the score. Changing scenes, Kim Ho is in an intense fight against a very powerful opponent. Then, the master taunts him about tarnishing the name of his supposed master in the fight. With a smirk, Kim Ho replies that he never claimed to be a disciple of that person. Suddenly, a voice tells him they're done, and that Kim Ho must return to the area. Announcing his departure, Kim Ho says he needs to finish things here and leave, but his opponent shouts furiously, warning that he won't let him escape no matter what. With a grin, Kim Ho taunts him, saying he can't catch him anyway. Then he turns and starts running, ignoring the shouts for him to stop immediately. Refusing to accept his escape, the master becomes enraged and prepares a technique to stop him. Using a skill, he creates an energy net that pins Kim Ho to the ground. Stopping abruptly, Kim Ho plants his feet on the ground to resist the technique. To break free, he activates his amplification, increasing the power of his fire fist. Combining his skills, his fist becomes enveloped in a much more powerful and unstable energy. He then prepares to destroy the energy chains that bind him tightly. Launching his attack, he fires a blast of energy at his opponent in the air. His strike creates a massive fire tornado that surges forward, rapidly destroying everything in its path. After the attack, he feels the painful backlash from his own skill in his body. Looking at his burnt hand, he knows he has to endure the consequences of that power. Seeing the damage, he says that bought them some time and they need to head back soon. Seeing that the enemy has recovered, he decides he needs to get out of there fast. Now at a safe distance, he believes they should be fine. Walking through the village, he imagines the master will be searching the entire area. Arriving at the abandoned house, he wonders if his companions have already made it there. Carefully, he approaches the door and gets ready to go inside. Upon entering, he reunites with his friends, who confirm they got there quickly. Noticing their appearance, he asks why they look like that, finding it all strange. Deducing they fought the white serpent, he receives confirmation with a smile. Saying they weren't lucky either, he shows them an emergency escape scroll. Worried about who might be waiting outside, he tears the scroll without hesitation. With that, a portal opens in front of them, and he tells them they can leave now. Stepping out of the portal, Shin Byung-cheol waves excitedly and announces that they're back. At that, Dang Gyu-young warns that they need to get out of there before someone discovers them. Suddenly, two figures emerge from a shadow right in front of the group. Shin Byung-cheol then explains that it's the leader's ability, telling them not to worry. Revealed to be the shadow pouch, the ability hides people in a dark space. Going up the stairs, she warns them to walk carefully, because there are people on the floor above. As they go up, Kim Ho asks about the mission, and she confirms they got everything. With a smile, she praises Kim Ho, saying he's a very capable junior. But suddenly, her expression changes as she realizes something strange just happened. Explaining what happened, she says a scout butterfly was caught by Guak Seung-jae. Trying to play it cool, she says they were just walking around on the building's lower floor. From the green mist, a figure begins to walk slowly toward them. Revealed to be Guak Seungjai, he greets the group, holding the butterfly in a cage. Showing them the cage, he says he found it on another floor and came to check things out. Then, he points out the inconsistencies, citing the presence of everyone from the Thieves Club. In a serious tone, Guak Seungjai asks the group to accompany him to the room. Keeping her cool, Dang Yu-young just faces the situation with a very confident smile. Changing scenes to the chief's room, the door opens for the start of the interrogation. In the room, Guak Seungjai explains that he found them all near the entrance to the basement. Oh Se-hoon then asks if they were going down, but the young man denies it and corrects him. Exchanging a suspicious glance, the two committee members look at each other for a moment. Meanwhile, Kim Ho puts his hands in his pockets, acting very naturally. After giving his brief report, Guak Seungjai turns and leaves the room. At this, Oh Se-hoon says that if they were coming up, it's better to be sure of the facts. Asking them to sit, he offers them a drink, and the girls politely accept. But the other guys refuse the offer, saying they're fine and don't need anything. Sitting down calmly, Kim Ho also decides to ask for a honey water to drink. In silence, Oh Se-hoon observes the group for a moment, analyzing the whole situation. He then asks if Kim Ho has joined the Thieves Club, noting the similarities, but Kim Ho denies it, explaining he plans to remain unaffiliated at the academy for now. Questioning Dang Yu-young, he asks why she took the rookies to the basement. Pressing further, he wants to know if they entered a nearby dungeon. Then he turns to Kim Ho, reminding him that this is a violation of the rules. Confirming he knew, Kim Ho says he couldn't resist his great curiosity. Scolding the young man, he asks if he really needed to break the rules out of pure curiosity. Suddenly, he turns to the side and asks for a moment of silence from everyone. Reading a message, he confirms there were no records of achievements on that specific night. Kim Ho and Dang Yu-young exchange a subtle glance as they await the final verdict. With nothing else to do, he gives them a penalty point and lets them go. Watching the group leave, he calls Song Cheon-hae over for a very private and serious talk. He then asked her to say what she thought of that very strange situation. Analyzing the situation, she says the combination of students was too conspicuous for them. Explaining her point, she says the club leader's presence was unnecessary there. Because of the combination, she concludes their objective was a high-probability dungeon. Furthermore, she notes that Go Hyun-woo seemed to have suffered internal injuries in a fight. He then concludes that for someone of that level to get hurt, it could only be in a difficult dungeon. Analyzing the possibilities, he says the difficulty could even be B rank. Asking about Kim Ho's hands, he finds out she couldn't check in time. Then, he reveals there were burn marks on his right hand, surprising his colleague. Even though it's hard to connect the incidents, he says one thing is absolutely certain now. He then explains that the burn is recent, and the moment someone goes in there, it will be the perfect chance they'll have to finally pick up their trail. Outside, the group says their goodbyes, and Shin Byung-cheol thanks them for their work. Then Dang Yu-young asks Kim Ho for a private talk, and he accepts. Walking down the street, she apologizes for getting caught after she had bragged. He agrees it was disappointing, which annoys her, and she blames the inspector for the situation. Seeing her reaction, he says that one penalty point is no big deal, but she suddenly asks to see his hand, leaving the young man a bit confused. Seeing the burns, she asks if the inspector saw them, and he confirms he did. Questioning his use of power, she hears him admit that he made a mess in there. Warning him of the danger, she says the key now is to privatize the dungeon. Agreeing to help, he says it wouldn't be good for them if he got caught. At that moment, she asks why he keeps taking such big risks all the time. With a serious look, he remains silent for a brief moment before answering. He begins to explain that in just 1 month, he's already broken several important rules. Continuing his explanation, he reveals that he also didn't avoid conflicts with other factions. Remembering his past, he reveals he has faced great dangers to get here. He then reveals that he has graduated from that academy more than 200 times before. He tells her it wasn't all a bed of roses and that bad things happened too. He then mentions that people died, and she apologizes for asking an unnecessary question. Saying he's decided something, he states that he will never let anyone take anything from him again. With a firm look, he specifies that this applies to both things and people. She comments that it's a difficult goal, but he says he'll get strong enough. With a smile, she says that even though it sounds absurd, she really liked his answer. She then says goodbye, telling him she'll see him on Monday, which leaves him a bit confused. Walking away with a smile, she replies that she's not going to tell him the reason right now. A few days later, Go Hyun-woo greets Kim Ho and comments on his improved appearance. Saying he's recovered, Kim Ho replies that he got lucky against the White Serpent. At this, he asks how Go Hyun-woo managed to escape from such a powerful enemy. Explaining the situation, he reveals that he had to use his sect's sacred relic. He then confirms he borrowed its power. as everyone's lives were on the line. With an awkward smile, he says there's no way he can face his master now. Analyzing the sheath, Kim Ho realizes the relic is of an extremely high level. Looking at his friend, he understands that his pride must have taken a big hit. Then he says it wasn't easy, leaving Go Hyun-woo surprised by his words. Promising to work hard, he hears Kim Ho say that he'll definitely be able to do it. Entering the room, they find Seo Ye-in and comment that she arrived very early. Noticing a scent in the room, Go Hyun-woo asks if Kim Ho also picked up on the aroma. Waving her hand in the air, she confirms that the smell has filled the entire place. Seeing the bag on the table, the two guys react, realizing they're homemade cookies. Offering a cookie, Seo Ye-in asks what he thinks it looks like. With a smile, Kim Ho asks if she finds dinosaur cookies interesting. At this, the two guys become apprehensive, expecting the worst to happen after that question. So Go Hyun-woo decides he needs to prevent Kim Ho from suffering the same fate he did. Trying to save the situation, he compliments the cookie, saying it looks like a living fish. Seeing her reaction, Go Hyun-woo panics and tries to think of how to recover. Looking at her, Kim Ho gets closer and asks if the cookie is a rabbit. After eating it, he praises the taste and says her skills have improved a lot. Watching the scene, Go Hyun-woo laments, but says the sacrifice was well worth it. Changing the subject, Kim Ho asks if they can do something before anyone else arrives. He then reveals the chest, saying it's time to open the reward box. Excited, Go Hyun-woo approaches, but Kim Ho warns that it's too early to celebrate. He explains that the real prize are the random boxes inside the chest. Although it's not much, he says that 2 B-rank boxes are a great deal. Highlighting one box, he explains that it guarantees materials for high-level weapons. Remembering the past, he recalls when Seo Ye-in got a B-rank item. Suspecting she has a luck trait, he prepares for the next step. Offering the box, he asks if she wants to open it, and she readily accepts. As she opens it, he wonders if she'll manage to pull a rare item. Suddenly, an intense energy emanates from the box, surprising everyone in the room. Revealed to be an A-rank ingot, everyone is stunned by her absurd luck. He then offers her the other box, and she agrees to open that item as well. This time, she gets a spiritual medicine, and he suggests they divide the roots. Seeing the results, he wonders if there's an activation condition for her luck. He then asks if it was helpful, and she confirms it was tremendously helpful for her. With a satisfied smile, she says she's happy to have helped in some way. Knowing it will take time, he decides he needs to hurry to process the material. During lunchtime, he goes to the blacksmith's workshop to place an order. Asking to see the president, he is told he cannot, receiving a negative response. But Kim Ho reveals that although he isn't from a prestigious family, he has something. Showing a VIP ticket, he asks if it's now possible to have a little chat. Curious about the ticket, the president asks what he wants to have made. Handing over the blueprint, he says that looking at the design would be much faster. At this, the blacksmith notices that it's a very complex and unique piece of magical equipment. Finding the project interesting, he decides to make an exception and accept the job. When asked about the materials, Kim Ho shows the rare ingot of eternal iron. As a secondary material, he shows a bracelet and explains the combination of the two metals. Seeing all that, the blacksmith calls him a very interesting and different rookie. After taking the materials, he warns that the job will take about a week. With a confident smile, Kim Ho already knows he'll hear back much sooner than that. Walking to the arena entrance, he realizes that luckily, he won't end up being late. With the notice in mind, he sees that it's time for the Academy's mentorship program. Suddenly, a familiar voice asks if he also signed up for the mentorship. Turning around, he sees Han So-mi and Song Cheon-hai approaching with a cheerful wave. Asking if he's versatile, she gets a confirmation, and he doesn't understand why. Excited by the news, she says the two of them might end up being mentors together. Annoyed by the comment, Song Cheon-hai tells her to stop saying useless and nonsensical things. Confused, Kim Ho asks why she's acting so strangely. After the brief confusion, he starts walking alone down the hallway of the large building. Noticing she's behind him, he turns and asks why she's following him. Denying the accusation, she just tells him to go on ahead if he's bothered. They then continue walking in the same direction, but keep some distance from each other. Stopping in front of a door, she asks if he's also in group 163H. Seeing her reaction, they both realize they were heading to the same place after all. Just then, Guak Ji Cheol appears, and Kim Ho notices he also signed up as a mage. To everyone's surprise, Hong Yunhua also arrives for the same mentorship group. Seeing all those familiar faces, they wonder who the mentor for their group will be. Suddenly, a voice calls out and greets the rookies waiting down below. Looking up, the group sees the figure of their new mentor observing them. With a slight smile, Kim Ho finally understands what she meant by Monday. Revealing her identity, Dang Young says she is the new mentor for this select group. On a beautiful day, the sun shines intensely over the academy building. Standing before the group, she begins to explain the mentorship's objective to them all. Continuing her explanation, she says she needs to check each of their abilities. With a snap of her fingers, she activates the arena and announces the PvP match. Asking for their attention, she says she will explain the rules of combat to the group. The first rule is the elite enemy, and she reveals that it will be her. Aware of their disadvantage, she decides to set some custom rules for the fight. The first rule is that all of her abilities will be limited to C rank in the arena. Next, she explains that to win, they need to remove 3 stickers from her body. The final rule is that they must attack her in pairs however they wish. Finishing her explanation, she asks if anyone has any questions, but everyone remains quiet. Seeing there are no questions, she tells them to enter whenever they're ready. Repeating the rule, they prepare to decide on the pairs for the challenge. Remembering the past, Kim Ho pictures himself in a dangerous fight inside a dungeon. Meanwhile, the girls worry about the difficulty of the task their mentor has given them. At that moment, the group decides that a certain partnership must be avoided at all costs. Just then, Guak Ji Cheol quickly asks Song Cheon Hai to be his partner for the fight. Seeing she's been left behind, Hong Yeon Hwa panics and asks what she's going to do. Suddenly, Kim Ho says they'll be a team, which terrifies her. Seeing her over-the-top reaction, he just comments that she's still the same as always. While waiting, he decides to check his missions to make use of the free time. Looking at the mission, he notices the PvP reward varies with the completion time. He then realizes that delaying will only lead to losses, deciding to finish everything on the first day. Suddenly, he realizes the first pair has already finished their fight very quickly. Badly injured, they announce it's the next pair's turn, admitting the veteran's strength. When their turn comes, Kim Ho and Hong Yeon Hwa enter the arena for the challenge. With her back turned, the mentor tells them to enter when they're ready for the big fight. Seeing the arena is intact, he realizes the enormous power gap between them. She then asks if the pair has a plan of attack, but he remains quiet. Then he says that first, Hong Yeon Hwa will fight alone, leaving her very surprised. Explaining that she needs to learn, he decides to stay back and watch the fight. Alone in the arena, Hong Yeon Hwa prepares to face the mentor with her staff. With a smile, she asks about their plan and says they can do as they please. Under attack, Hong Yeon Hwa is forced to retreat from the force of the blow. Reacting quickly, she uses her staff to create a powerful fire arrow. As Kim Ho watches, she readies her fire arrow to attack the mentor. Without any difficulty, the mentor leaps over the projectile, dodging the direct hit. Appearing beside her, the mentor warns that their plan isn't good enough. But suddenly, Kim Ho's fist appears and blocks the mentor's attack. With his arm extended, he stops the blow from hitting his completely defenseless partner. He then manages to grab one of the shadow butterflies with his right hand. The butterfly then explodes in his hand, releasing a blast of energy against him. Impressed, she comments that he reacted even from such a great distance from his partner. Now beside her, he gets ready, and the mentor asks if he's going to fight. With a smile, he states that he doesn't plan for them to attack her together. Asking her to try close quarters combat, he instructs her on the strategy. He then says that even if she loses, she at least needs to try the new tactic. Determined to fight with everything she's got, she prepares to use her maximum power now. Creating a lava whip, she prepares to advance on her opponent. As she charges forward bravely, the mentor finds the strategy bold, but not half bad. But she warns that it only works if the attacks can actually hit their target. Blocking the lava whip, the mentor stops the attack with ease and composure. At this, she praises the rookie's talent for going straight for the stickers on her body. Despite the praise, a shadow butterfly approaches her foot unnoticed. Appearing in an instant, the mentor strikes her with a swift and precise blow. Surprised by the speed, she notices the mentor used the explosion to move. Asking what she's looking at, the mentor distracts her for a brief moment. Caught in the trap, she realizes her feet are pinned by the mentor's shadow. Seeing the butterfly approach her face, she's left completely unable to react. With the explosion, the mentor defeats her, making her scream from the powerful impact. Lying on the ground, the mentor explains that she can't just focus on attacking. With a smile, she says, "You learn by taking a beating," and that this is the first lesson. At this, she and Kim Ho approach, and she decides to end the fight there. Kim Ho then says that forcing a fight against an opponent of that level is pointless. Praising her effort, he tells her to go rest, as she's already done a good job. Now, alone in the arena, she confirms that it's finally their turn to fight. He then asks how she ended up becoming a mentor, and she laughs at his surprise. She explains that Oh Se-hoon asked her, offering a deal to overlook the previous incident. Excited, she reveals that the punishment would be completely cancelled in exchange for the mentorship, which she accepted. Hearing the story, he comments that the disciplinary chief was surprisingly bold in that negotiation. Before fighting, he makes a request, and she says she'll hear him out and then decide. With a determined look, he asks to start the PvP with the replay turned off. Intrigued, she asks if he plans to go all out, saying she was also curious. Explaining the rules, she decides to make an exception and turns off the replay for him. Then she gets ready, saying she'll see what her junior can do. Adjusting his tie, he asks with a smile for her to teach him a lot. His overheat skill ranks up, greatly maximizing its total effect. Absorbing another skill, the power in his fist becomes even more intense and powerful. Knowing it's difficult to control, he decides to end the fight quickly and decisively. Moving with speed, he uses his silent steps to catch the mentor off guard. Caught off guard, she's surprised by the attack, and he rips off the first sticker. With the suffocating pressure of his skills, he prepares to continue the assault. Grabbing the sticker, he warns her he's coming for the next one, giving her no time to rest. Breathless, she asks for a second to recover, but he denies her request. Pushing forward again, he attacks, and she's forced to block the direct hit. With no other choice, she retreats and uses her shadows to defend against the attack. Seeing her defense, he uses his wind power, creating a sphere of energy. He launches the attack, hitting her head-on and forcing her to retreat once more. But she recovers and tries to counter-attack, realizing he has closed in again. Dodging the blow, he successfully rips the second sticker from her shoulder. Seeing that two are gone, she asks for a moment to prepare, but he refuses. With a smile, he says he's going all out to win this fight for good. Going for the last sticker, he warns her he'll get it no matter what. Leaping over her, he manages to grab the sticker, successfully ending the match. Admitting her carelessness, she realizes he survived the chamber with just one burn. At that moment, she decides to fight at his real level and activates her Garden of Shadows. Knowing the garden only deals damage within its area, he analyzes the situation. Standing amidst the shadows, he just stares at the mentor with a very serious expression. He understands that if he keeps his distance, his overheating will stop and they'll end in a draw, but he knows that maintaining the domain will drain her energy quickly too. With this advantage, he moves forward, knowing she can't use other skills now. Surprised by his advance, she expected him to at least hesitate a little. Not understanding his plan, she tries to counter with a strike, but he blocks it. Throwing her off balance, he seizes the chance to easily rip off the last sticker. Falling to the ground, she shouts, surprised to have been defeated so quickly. Seeing her on the ground, he says he got all three, successfully ending the fight. On the score screen, Kim Ho's victory over the mentor is finally confirmed. Shouting at them, Hong Yeonhwa says it's no time to be fooling around. Song Cheon-hai then notices the stickers on the mentor are in different positions now. Getting their attention, she scolds the group, saying their close-quarters combat skills are weak. She then lectures them, saying they need basic defenses against fighters. Announcing the day's focus, she says the mentoring session will be on hand-to-hand combat. Seeing the upset group, she dismisses them, offering 3 more chances for the task. Looking at the screen, he realizes that completing the mission increases the event bonus. The mentor then questions him, saying someone of his level doesn't need mentoring, but he replies that he needs to learn everything he can, especially from her. With a smile, he reveals he's after a specific evasion-based trait. He understands the reward only counts if he gets direct help from his mentor. Agreeing to help, she prepares for the training and tells him to get in position. Then she suggests he remove his bracelet, and he asks if it's no limits. With a smile, he says this increases the chances, and she questions the condition. He reveals the trait's name is Distortion, leaving the mentor quite surprised. Curious, she asks what the trait does, and he promises to demonstrate once he learns it. Agreeing to help, she removes her bracelet and prepares for some serious training. Taking off his bracelet, he agrees to start the serious training right then and there. With a smile, she tells him to prove he's not just all talk. Launching a shadow projectile, she yells at him to try and dodge her attack. Narrowly dodging, he realizes it's one of her clan's projectile arts. Analyzing her tactic, he understands she used Shadow Leap to hide. With an extremely high mana cost, this skill is incredibly difficult to use. He realizes her level now is completely different from before in the fight. Dodging another blow, he admits that attack was legitimately very risky. Using the skill without hesitation, he deduces her core is A rank. Seeing the situation, he understands that learning the trait means accumulating attack dodges. With the large rank difference, each dodge gives him 3 to 4 stacks. He then reveals he's going to use this mentoring session to finally unlock his new skill. Suddenly, he stops moving, leaving the mentor completely confused by his action. Tired, she falls to the ground and says she's going to take a break for a while. Seeing her exhausted, he understands she spent a lot of mana and that he can wait calmly. Calling out to him, she tells him to come rest for a bit too before they continue. Praising his dodges, she says he avoided everything, and he credits it to his graduations. Sitting down next to her, he says this is standard mentoring training. She then asks to at least save a replay, but he tries to ignore the question. He knows that keeping the skills requirements a secret will cost him dearly. Seeing this, she asks what the price is, and he asks for a favor in return. Suspicious, she asks if he's not going to ask for anything weird, like joining his club. He then proposes that she can say no if she doesn't like the favor when the time comes. With a smile, she agrees, and he wonders why she wanted it so badly. Changing scenes, in another arena, a new character appears amidst the destruction. Yawning, Seo Ye-in looks bored until a figure emerges in front of her. From the mist, a silhouette appears and says it's been a long time since they've seen her. Revealing her identity, the woman greets her, calling her "my lady," which surprises her. Giving her instructions, the mentor says Seo Ye-in will be facing her for the entire session. She then reveals she'll be the elite enemy in the upcoming fights. With a raised hand, she says she wants to assess her lady's progress. Explaining the rules, she puts on a barrier bracelet to begin the first lesson. Creating an energy shield, she warns Seo Ye-in not to trust her memories. Preparing for combat, the mentor gets into position and gives the signal to start. 2 weeks earlier, she gets a call and is shocked by the news she hears. In desperation, she screams, finding out that her lady has signed up for a mentorship at the academy. She then remembers that her lady has always been unmotivated, despite her enormous talent. The girl's lack of motivation has always genuinely irritated her. Looking at the application, she wonders if some desperate strategy from the academy actually worked. Tired, she just hoped the girl would at least show up to class more often. Regardless of the reason, she sees the registration as a rare chance to truly instruct her. With determination, she decides she will use all her knowledge to teach her well. Back in the present, the mentor prepares and announces that the training will begin. Silently, Seo Ye-in stares at the mentor with a slightly annoyed expression. Worried, the mentor wonders if she overdid it and if she should lower the difficulty a bit. Suddenly, Seo Ye-in materializes a weapon, surprising the mentor with her new ability. She then realizes the girl has formed a magic bullet with almost impeccable precision. Even with such a refined bullet, she knows that breaking her shield will require other skills. The mentor then plans to praise her progress and introduce the concept of projection in the lesson. Without waiting, Seo Ye-in fires, hitting the mentor head-on and knocking her back. Impressed by her development, the mentor praises her lady for her remarkable skill. Lying on the ground, she can hardly believe her prodigy student's magnificent improvement. Still in shock, she asks how Seo Ye-in mastered the magic bullet and projection. She continues, wanting to know how the girl learned and trained 2 skills in just 1 month. Finding out that Kim Ho taught her, she's surprised to learn he suggested the mentorship. Seeing her dedication, the mentor is filled with pride and asks the reason for the change. At that moment, Seo Ye-in remembers Kim Ho and how he helped her. With a smile, she simply replies that she just felt like doing it. Seeing the smile, the mentor is speechless for a brief, tense moment. In shock, she screams, realizing that her lady is smiling for the first time. The next day, Kim Ho asks Go Hyun-woo how his mentorship is going. He replies that it's going well, with a fantastic mentor and valuable training. When asked about his group, he reveals that Han So-mi was placed with him. Taking a sip of his drink, Kim Ho understands why he saw so many members of the Sword Club. Go Hyun-woo then reveals he asked for a fight, but she turned him down on the spot. Kim Ho then says he'll try to find out her interests to help his friend. Seeing his kindness, Go Hyun-woo thanks him, and Kim Ho reveals he has a strategy for it. Suddenly, Seo Ye-in arrives, and Go Hyun-woo asks if her mentorship went well. Confused, the two guys see Seo Ye-in's mentor right behind her. Introducing herself, the woman says she is An Jung-mi, the mentor assigned to her. The guys also introduce themselves, and Kim Ho starts to say his name. Adjusting her glasses, she says she has heard a lot about him. She then asks to have a private conversation with him, which surprises him. Deciding to leave, Go Hyun-woo says it's better to give them some privacy. Handing him her card, she introduces herself as a team leader from the Hyesung group. Manufacturing high-tech equipment, the company explains Seo Ye-in's items. Looking at the card, Kim Ho understands he's dealing with a team leader from the group. He then deduces that Seo Ye-in must be the granddaughter of one of the company's executives. But the girl corrects him, saying that An Jung-mi is her private butler and guardian. The woman then reveals that she wants to discuss her lady's future with him. Feeling unqualified, he asks if others wouldn't be better for this serious conversation. She then explains that he managed to teach the girl in just a single month. Surprised, he asks if no one taught her properly before, and she praises him. He then questions if she pays attention at home, leaving them both speechless. Trying to smooth things over, the woman says she focuses on what interests her, but he sees through it. He then says he will support her, and Seo Ye-in thanks her friend for his help. Sharing the news, the woman reveals that her skills have advanced to C rank. Thoughtfully, he says that despite her power, she still needs more mobility and defense. Agreeing with him, she asks if he has any skill recommendations for her. He then recommends the feather walk skill, saying it would be the ideal option for everyone. Functioning like silent steps, the skill reduces weight and increases movement speed. Besides dodging attacks, the technique also has a book that costs a fortune. With a smile, he says that's not a concern for the Hyesung group. She then says she will acquire the book and thanks him for his guidance. Asking him to accept a gift, she opens her inventory, leaving him a bit confused. Revealing a pair of shoes, she offers them as thanks for his great help. Seeing the item, he comments that it must be expensive, but that's to be expected from the group. In that case, he says he will gladly accept it, as he really needs the item. Moving on, she asks him to continue looking after her lady from now on. Hours later, Kim Ho decides to leave Seo Ye-in's development in her mentor's hands. Thinking of his friend, he decides he needs to go to the workshop first. Suddenly, he sees a limping figure and wonders if it's Song Cheon-hai. Seeing her condition, he questions if the mentor went that hard on her. Calling her name, he startles her and she turns to him in surprise. Asking what he's doing there, she tries to keep her composure, but he teases her. He then comments that the mentorship must have been exhausting, but she immediately denies it. Seeing her reaction, he says she looks exhausted, and she tells him to stop. Admitting she's tired, she asks if he just called her over to make fun of her. Denying it, he says he wants to ask something, but she refuses to answer. With a smile, he says that if that's the case, there's nothing more to say. He then mentions the favor voucher, leaving her completely speechless. Seeing the achievement screen, she remembers the promise she made to him before. Annoyed, she tells him to just ask what he wants to know, without any more stalling. He then asks what Han Somi is interested in, which leaves her petrified. Irritated, she says he should have said so earlier, but he defends himself. Thoughtfully, she says she wants to help, but her friend isn't easy to persuade. He then says he'll convince her personally, and she says that would be very helpful. Surprised, she notes that he's being very considerate, and he tries to explain himself. Embarrassed, she thanks him for his help, even though he denies the real reason for his actions. Saying goodbye, he says he'll leave first, but she stops him. With a smile, he proposes another bet, and she accepts the challenge instantly. She then reveals the bet will be about who removes the most stickers in the PvP. With a confident smirk, he says he's already removed them all, but she tells him to shut up. Asking about the prize, he finds out it will be another favor voucher, just like last time. He then deduces that she's curious about his burn scars. Confident, he says he won't lose, so there's nothing to lose in the bet. With a smile, she accepts the deal, and they prepare for the challenge ahead. The scene changes. He's called to the blacksmith's workshop and notices a problem. The blacksmith then reveals there was an issue while processing the rare material. Explaining the situation, the blacksmith says combining the items was easy, but the problem came afterward. The cold energy dissipated the heat from the forge, preventing the metal from being properly shaped. Seeing his reaction, the blacksmith notes that Kim Ho already expected this outcome. He then asks if the young man has a plan B, but Kim Ho has an idea. Intrigued, the blacksmith says that if it works, he can name his reward on the spot. Kim Ho then asks that a small item be made with the leftover material. Agreeing to the proposal, the blacksmith says he'll make an extra item if the method works. He understands that, as the boss, the blacksmith wouldn't abandon the process just because it's difficult. Revealing his plan, he says that to melt the alloy, he needs a fire mage. His target is the head of the Ruby Magic Tower, one of the most powerful mages at the academy. Being his colleague's older sister, he has a way to approach her. With the ruby in hand, he knows he'll be treated as a very special guest. Meanwhile, Hong Yunhua laments that she's getting wrecked every day in the mentorship. Although her skills are improving, she still hasn't managed to remove a single sticker. Worried about her body, she decides to go home and recover from the intense training. Arriving in the room, Hong Yunhua screams, surprised to see her sister with Kim Ho. Seeing her reaction, the sister greets her and asks if she's back from the academy already. Sipping her tea, she says he doesn't need to return the ruby as it was a gift. She then asks him to take good care of her sister, and he agrees with a smile. Saying his goodbyes, he says he needs to go, leaving the girl even more confused and angry. Pointing at him, she asks why that guy is here, and her sister defends him. Mentioning the training, she says she heard they're in the same group now. She then scolds her, saying she never cared about hand-to-hand combat. With a smile, the sister asks if she's going to remove all the stickers in the PvP round. Annoyed, she asks why she should do that, and her sister gives her a warning. With a serious look, she says that if he's in the group, she must take them all down. Frightened by the order, Hong Yunhua agrees, though a bit reluctantly and scared. The sister then continues, saying she has one more thing to tell her. Mentioning the other colleagues, she gives a final warning about Kim Ho and the others. Agreeing to the order, Hong Yunhua prepares for the challenge ahead. The next day, at the arena, the pair prepares for the next mentorship challenge. In a flashback, Kim Ho proposes that Hong Yunhua should be the one to focus on the stickers. Her sister knows she will probably lose, but sees value in the challenge regardless. In return, he asks for help melting the eternal iron with a fire mage. The mage in question is Hong Yunhua, and her sister promises to handle it personally. With no choice, he ends up keeping the ruby he intended to return to the girl. Back at the arena, he suggests slightly adjusting the mentor's training approach. Seeing her focused on dodging, he says that incorporating attacks would better align with the purpose. Already drained, the mentor agrees and tells him to try the new strategy now. Getting ready, he stretches and asks if they should start the second session. Calling out to her, he challenges her, telling her to come at him with everything she's got. With a smile, he warns her that he'll focus only on dodging her attacks. Suspicious, she asks if he's really just going to dodge her attacks in the fight. Activating her power, she gets ready and tells him not to change his mind. Watching from afar, the mentor tells her to start as soon as she's done talking. He understands the mentor is watching to decide the future of their mentorship. With a shout, she unleashes a blast of fire, telling him not to get distracted now. Barely dodging, he moves with agility to avoid her fire attack. In the air, she attacks him with her staff, continuing the offensive without stopping for a second. Noticing her tactic, he realizes she used the explosion as a smokescreen. He then acknowledges that she's improved a lot, and that her suffering wasn't in vain. With a firm step, he prepares to continue the training with more intensity. Dodging with ease, he says she still has a long way to go. The mentor just watches in silence as the fight unfolds in the circular arena. He understands this training is useful for both of them, serving as a benchmark. Struggling to attack and defend, she knows the difficulty is about to ramp up. Exhausted, she falls to the ground and shouts that she can't do this anymore. Tired, she asks how he can dodge so many attacks without getting hit. Getting up, she decides it's better to leave before he can attack again. Calling her name, he stops her from leaving, and she turns around, a little startled. With a smile, he says he heard she has a special trait, the water flame. Surprised, she asks how he knows, and he reveals that her sister told him. Being a rare trait, the water flame is awakened by very few fire mages. Strong enough to burn at the bottom of the sea, the trait gives an advantage against ice. He then reveals that he knows her trait is stuck at E rank. He explains that powerful traits grow slower under normal conditions, which makes her sad. But he says that's only true for normal conditions, and proposes a way for it to evolve. Surprised, she asks if he can really break the barrier, and how he would do it. He then explains that to overcome the barrier, one must overcome the trait's specialty. With a smile, he says she needs to burn something immersed in extreme cold. She says she's tried that a few times before, but had no success. He then says that all of it melted in no time, but she wants to argue back. So, he suggests using an item that is intensely cold and doesn't melt easily. Changing scenes, they arrive at the blacksmith's workshop to test the new idea. Hong Yunhua then asks if that's the solution, and he confirms it is. But the blacksmith says he's already tried it with a fire mage, and it was completely useless. Kim Ho then asks for one more chance, even though the blacksmith doubts a rookie. Suspicious, the blacksmith stares at the young man for a moment, thinking about his risky proposal. Agreeing to try, he tells the young man to show what he can do with the material. With a smile, Kim Ho just looks at her, giving her a bit of confidence. Seeing the item, she feels the intense cold coming from the metal inside the furnace. Determined, she's going to focus her pillar of fire on a single point with everything she's got. Launching the attack, she fires a powerful blast of fire at the cold metal. She then comments that it's going to take a while to finish the whole process. Seeing that there's hope, the blacksmith allows it and asks him to watch over it for a few days. Days later, at the arena, he realizes today is the last day of the mentorship cycle. Arriving at the arena, Hong Yunhua greets Kim Ho and asks if he's there alone. He then mentions that her rank went up, which leaves her completely shocked and surprised. With a smile, he says it's written all over her face, but she's confused. Looking at her own face, she says it looks the same, and he tells her to focus. Suddenly, Kim Ho announces that the others are leaving, right on time for them. Seeing their faces, he guesses their match must have been very intense. Looking at the situation, Hong Yunhua says that getting even one sticker would be really tough. Kim Ho then approaches and calls Song Cheon-hae for a quick chat. Asking to talk, he walks over, and Hong Yunhua wonders what's going on. Watching the two of them, she finds it strange, since they aren't that close. Lost in thought, she wonders why she's caring so much about it. Distracted, she's called by Kim Ho, who asks why she didn't answer. Seeing he's back, she asks about their conversation, and he explains the reason. Curious, she wants to know how many stickers they got, and he reveals it was none. Realizing their chance, she says that if they get just one, they'll already be ahead. With a smile, Kim Ho encourages her, and she agrees it seems possible. He then tells her to try whatever she wants, and that he'll support her. Surprised, she asks if they're going to fight together, and he says he's not just going to watch. Trying to explain herself, she gets a little embarrassed by his confident response. He then calms her down, telling her to do exactly what she practiced in training. Normally, she'd feel pressured, but today, somehow, it's very different for her. Seeing them enter, the mentor warns them not to disappoint her like the last pair did. With a look of confidence, he encourages her, and she readies herself for combat. Holding her staff, she says with determination that she can do this, no matter what. Using her skills, she prepares for a powerful attack with her pillar of fire. Seeing their strategy, the mentor wonders if they're overdoing it right from the start of the fight. Creating an orb of fire, she warns that today will be very different from yesterday in the arena. Launching her attack, she prepares to show off her new powerful ability. With a shout, she unleashes a massive wave of fire at her opponent in the arena. Wielding a shadow sword, the mentor braces herself, trying to understand the new strategy. She then uses the sword to block the fiery explosion with ease. Despite the attack's force, the mentor successfully defends herself with her dark weapon. The explosion covers the arena in flames, creating a fiery battleground. Watching the flames, she realizes the rookie wants to interfere with her shadows. Charging through the fire, Hong Yunhua strikes the mentor with a precise blow, but the mentor blocks the attack, saying it wasn't nearly enough. Determined, Hong Yunhua keeps attacking with her flaming staff with all her might. Suddenly, the flames creep up the sword, and the mentor realizes the true target. Her guard down, the mentor leaps back to avoid being disarmed. Seeing the opening, Hong Yunhua lands a powerful blow to her opponent's stomach. With a smirk, the mentor faces the rookie, impressed by the well-executed strategy. Surprised, Hong Yunhua sees she didn't dodge, taking the hit head-on. Startled, she realizes shadow butterflies have trapped her feet to the arena floor. With an explosive burst, the mentor strikes her, sending her flying. Kim Ho protects her with a barrier, but she feels sick from the attack. Scolding her, he says she can't let her guard down, and she apologizes. Seeing the support, the mentor decides to adjust the difficulty and prepares to strike. Charging forward with her daggers, she says she can't afford to chat. Hong Yunhua manages to block the blow, but the mentor speeds past her. Seeing the mentor charge, she readies her staff to attack again. Noticing the improvement, the mentor praises her sharper movements and judgment. Despite the improvement, she warns that her attacks are still too predictable. Leaping over her, the mentor attacks, but Hong Yunhua manages to defend herself. Seeing her struggle, Kim Ho decides it's time to lend a hand. With a smile, he gets ready to join the fight and help his partner. Stepping forward, he says she did well but questions her stamina. Suddenly, the mentor senses his presence and prepares for a serious fight. Seeing the opening, Hong Yunhua decides it's time to grab that sticker. With a quick move, she reaches out and manages to rip the sticker from her arm. Shocked, she can hardly believe she got the mentor's sticker during the fight. Celebrating, she yells out that she finally managed to get one of her stickers. Watching from afar, Kim Ho notices she didn't panic and has improved a lot. The mentor then warns her not to let her guard down in the fight. With a smirk, the mentor challenges her, telling her to try and get the rest now. Wondering if she can, she decides they need to go all out to win. With a shout, she charges forward, ready to continue the fight with all her strength. Despite their best efforts, the two are ultimately defeated by their powerful mentor. After the fight, the mentor praises their effort, despite their inevitable defeat. Addressing the group, she says at least someone managed to take one of the stickers. Surprised, the other group finds out it was Hong Yunhua who accomplished the feat. With a smile, she realizes she's finally surpassed her rival, even if just by a little, but she tries to hide it, and her teammates ask what she's laughing about. Scolding the group, she warns there's still a lot to improve in their fighting. Confused, the group asks what she means by continuing the training. She then explains there are still 3 weeks left and dismisses them until the next day. Tired, they decide they also need to head back and rest for the next day of training. And so, Kim Ho and Hong Yunhua are left alone in the arena, watching the others leave. As he turns to leave, she stops him, asking him to wait a moment. A bit awkwardly, she thanks him for his help in getting the sticker during the fight, but he says there's no need to thank him, as it was the result of her own effort. At that moment, she starts to wonder if she's been judging him wrong all this time. She then starts to think that maybe he's better than she initially thought. Suddenly, she realizes she's leveled up, leaving her completely stunned and confused. Waving, she says goodbye with a thank you, and tells him she'll see him at the academy tomorrow. Completely baffled, he wonders why she suddenly acted that way. Just then, the mentor appears behind him, asking why he's so relaxed. Annoyed, she says she only came back to scold him about the ability. She then questions him about his rankings, and he explains that everything always resets. Impatiently, she stretches, saying she's already exhausted from dealing with everyone. She then tells him to take it easy starting tomorrow and says goodbye to get some rest. He stops her, asking where she's going in such a hurry. Reminding her of their deal, he says the week isn't over yet and that she agreed. Tired, she asks for a break, but he insists, saying they're almost there. Sighing, she agrees to continue, regretting the promise she made to him earlier. He then thanks her, and the two get ready to continue their intense training. Dodging her attacks, he taunts her, and she says she wants to get this over with. He notices she's keeping up her attacks and that she's also improved a lot in the fight. Tired, she asks how much longer, and he says just a little more. Suddenly, a notification screen pops up in front of him, leaving him very surprised. Seeing his distraction, she warns she's speeding up and tells him to dodge properly now. Charging forward, she says she warned him, but her attack goes right through him. Surprised, she feels something strange and realizes the blow didn't actually hit him. Confused, she wonders what happened, as she was sure she had hit him. Revealing his new ability, he says he just learned the distortion trait. She says the skill is broken, but Kim Ho explains its downside. Still, she asks if she can learn it, and he confirms she can. He explains that to rack up points, you have to fight stronger people. So he suggests she use the same tactic against the academy's instructors. Stunned, she asks how she could do that against such high-rank enemies. Changing the subject, she thanks him for his help, and he suggests they get some rest. But as he turns to leave, she asks him to wait. Pointing at him, she announces she's cashing in her favor now. She then asks if he'll be free next week, and he confirms he will. She invites him to go somewhere with her. With a smile, she says that revealing the plan would spoil all the fun. Waving as she walks away, she promises to explain everything at the right time. A week later, Kim Ho is walking down the academy's hallway. Turning a corner, he finds Seo Ye-in standing in the middle of the path. Looking at her feet, he realizes she's already mastered the new technique. As he gets closer, Kim Ho asks if she's practicing the new skill, and she confirms. Praising her effort, he asks for its rank, and Seo Ye-in says it's D rank. Just then, An Jung-mi appears, and Kim Ho comments that she worked fast. Adjusting her glasses, the mentor says she was just fulfilling her duties as assigned. With a smile, he says he's quite perceptive and notices things. Then, he praises her rapid progress achieved over the weekend. An Young-mi begins to detail the entire training plan for the girl's development. Looking at the whole plan, Kim Ho notices a critical weakness in it, but the mentor herself wonders if they aren't pushing the girl too hard. Seizing the opportunity, he says he wanted to discuss that and suggests a deal. Going back to their earlier conversation, he asks how her mentoring went during the week. With a bored expression, Seo Ye-in says it was too dull and repetitive. The mentor then argues that repetition is fundamental to any kind of training. She immediately retorts that Kim Ho is nice, but the mentor is boring. Faced with her answer, the two of them are left completely confused and speechless. Asking if there are any other problems, he hears the girl complain about being tired. The mentor then explains that 4-hour naps are unacceptable. Seeing the situation, he realizes he needs to handle this conversation very carefully. So, he asks what she needs, and Seo Ye-in replies that she wants to rest. Suggesting a break, he says they'll let her rest, but the mentor protests. Whispering to the mentor, he warns her of the risk that the girl might just collapse. Understanding the gravity of the situation, the mentor finally agrees with the decision and falls silent. He then asks if she's going to spend her break just sleeping. Shaking her head, the girl shows she has other plans in mind. Looking directly at him, she reveals that she actually wants to go downtown. The mentor promptly offers to escort her, but she says that would be boring. Hearing the girl's response, the mentor is left in complete shock. Kim Ho asks who she would go with, and Seo Ye-in invites him. Surprised, he points to himself, but then remembers his responsibility in this. Thinking about the reward, he concludes that a one-day investment is worth it. Accepting the invitation, he sets the condition that she must put more effort into her training. Shifting to the classroom, the professor announces the results of the previous test. Showing his perfect score, he leaves all his classmates quite surprised. One of the students then praises the result, saying it was just like him. After that, Kim Ho turns around and asks his other classmates for their scores. Go Hyun-woo answers awkwardly, but Kim Ho thinks they did well. Looking at Seo Ye-in's map, he comments that her drawing is very clean. Just then, he and a female classmate are startled to realize they had the same secret thought. Then, the professor calls for everyone's attention to begin the next explanation. Explaining the new topic, he says this week's role is to be a guardian. To complete the stage, the students will need to get past this guardian's defense. He then reveals that this time, the students themselves will have to act as the guardians. Pointing to the screen, he shows that the objective is to protect a statue of the goddess. Continuing with the rules, he explains that the score depends on the damage done to the statue. Hearing about the mentorship, Kim-ho can already imagine the reaction of his other three. Looking at the group, he realizes the problem is Seo Ye-in's bored expression. He then wishes the mentor good luck, as she's in for another tough week. Moving to the arena, he finds his other mentees and asks about the rules. Seeing their discouragement, he notices that their spirits are completely crushed. Suddenly, a voice shouts, telling everyone to be quiet and stop the noise. She then tells them to forget the chatter and get ready for the rules. Showing a map, she says she's added 2 rules, starting with close quarters combat. She explains that under this rule, only close-range damage will count. Kim-ho thinks that's not so bad, but he's still waiting for the second rule. Announcing the final rule, she says it's called Commander, to compensate for the monsters. With a smirk, she explains that a commander will make up for their lack of intelligence. Revealing the surprise, she says that she herself will be commanding all the monsters. Seeing their reaction, Kim-ho realizes his gut feeling was right once again. Then, she announces one last thing and tells them to switch partners. Song Cheon-hai complains about the switch, but the mentor asks if she wanted the same partner. With nothing to say, she just tells them to get on with it. Announcing the first pair, she points to Kim-ho and Song Cheon-hai. Pointing to the gate, she orders them both to enter at once. Arriving at the ancient temple, they look around to get a feel for the place. In front of the goddess statue, they see the place is partially destroyed. Just then, the mentor appears behind them, asking if they were just relaxing. With a serious look, she tells them they're starting immediately and to get ready. Seeing her hide in the shadows, Kim-ho braces himself for the start. Facing the statue, he asks if she's ready, and she confirms they should begin. Seconds later, a horde of goblins appears, heading straight for them. Song Cheon-hai says she'll handle the front line and asks for support. With his arms crossed, he says he's counting on her to handle it. Shouting for them all to disappear, she attacks the horde with all her might. Hitting only a few, the attack doesn't reach the monsters further back. Using her chain lightning, she manages to hit several enemies at once. Confused, she wonders why some of them weren't affected. Kim-ho then reminds her that the rule limits damage to close range. Determined, she declares she'll take them down one by one now. With a relentless fighting style, she unleashes a non-stop barrage of attacks. Watching from a distance, he notes her mana reserves are impressive. Her mana is on par with veterans, but he still notices a flaw. He realizes her control still needs a lot of work and more training. Because of this, she ends up using brute force instead of focusing on technique. But a goblin exploits an opening in her defense and manages to slip past her. Seeing the creature get through, she desperately yells for help and support. The goblin then charges forward and leaps at Kim-ho to attack. Quickly, he grabs the creature by the neck, stopping its attack instantly. Tossing the creature aside, he easily gets rid of the threat. She then yells, asking what he's doing, but he reminds her of her task. Telling her to calm down, he assures her he'll protect the goddess statue no matter what. Frustrated, she just tells him to defend the statue properly, and that's it. He then explains that holding the defense for 10 minutes should be enough. Suddenly, an explosion shatters the wall, surprising the girl mid-fight. In disbelief, she screams that this can't be happening. Just then, a stronger goblin emerges, asking if the situation isn't a bit unfair. Seeing the danger, he says he'll handle it, and she tells him to go already. But before he can move, another group of goblins appears in the hole. Realizing their level, he prepares a new spell to deal with them all. Using his wind power, he eliminates the monsters that came through the wall. She wonders how he did that, but he returns his focus to the task at hand. Irritated, she complains that the monsters keep slipping past her defense one by one. To resolve the situation, she uses her skill and attacks the stronger goblin. Seeing the attack fail, she remembers the combat restriction and panics. Just then, 2 goblins exploit the opening and easily surround her from behind. By focusing on the enemy that got away, she forgot to protect her rear. With her defense wide open, the goblins destroy the statue, and they fail the mission. In disbelief at the result, she just stands there, not understanding what just happened. Outside the temple, he tells her to analyze the fight while the next team goes. Seeing they finished early, the next pair gets ready to enter the arena. Defiantly, Moyoung-jun tells his partner not to get in the way, and she retorts in kind. Watching the pair, Kim-ho becomes interested in the synergy between their powers. Tapping his shoulder, Song Cheon-hai approaches and says she has a question. She then asks if he expected the wall to break, noticing his composure. He replies that he just figured something extra was bound to happen. Explaining further, he says that with that commander, the test was never going to be simple, but she questions him, saying he seemed overly cautious even for the situation. Revealing his plan, he says he held back to analyze her style. Calling his mentality lazy, she asks if he couldn't have just tried harder. Quoting her grandfather, she says that only the persistent achieve victory. At that, he asks if her grandfather happens to be the Thunder Lord. With a smile, she's happy he's well informed about her idol. Seeing her excitement, he decides to speed up the discussion to make a plan. Admitting he was too passive, he suggests they focus on what to do from now on. He then asks if she can handle the goblins that occasionally slip past her. Offering to help, he says he'll take care of any that get through until they have more information. She comments that he's being reasonable, but he reminds her that she needed a ticket. Changing the subject, he mentions that Go Hyun-woo asked him to thank her for everything. Trying to cash in a favor, she asks for a ticket, but he yells that it wasn't her. Averting his gaze, he notices the other pair had also finished their test. Checking the time, he sees the other pair managed to last much longer than they did. Thinking about it, he concludes she has every right to feel cheated. Worried, she asks what happened, but the other girl tells her to forget about it. With rivalrous glares, the two girls start provoking each other right there. At that, Hong Yeon-hwa gives a confident smile, showing she won't make it easy. With a determined look, she says she's really looking forward to a victory now. Back at the temple, he assures her he'll take care of any monsters that get past her. Asking her to cover one side, he points to where she should stand. Curious, she asks what the plan is, and he says he'll do something different. Thinking of a strategy, she plans to use an area of effect spell for continuous damage. With her hands on the ground, she then creates a large field of lightning all around. Just then, the first horde of goblins finally appears on the battlefield again. Seeing the magic on the ground, the monsters stop, confused, not understanding what's happening. As they enter the field, they're struck by electricity and instantly paralyzed. With a confident smile, she announces that the spell is ready and active. Being electrocuted, the goblins can no longer move across the battlefield. Watching her tactic, he realizes she's using her mana to compensate for control. Even without dealing damage, the spell is enough to slow the monsters down significantly. Seeing that she's found a way, he decides to focus only on his side. Looking at the wall, he notices the same hole from before reappearing. When the wall breaks, he prepares to deal with the emerging goblins. Apologizing, he announces that this side is permanently closed to visitors. Then he tells the monsters to use the main entrance if they have any business. With the statue intact, they easily pass the 5-minute defense mark. Just then, a new obstacle appears, and he was already expecting it. Sensing something bad, she hears him comment that their commander is relentless. Being an elite monster, it would normally only appear at the very end. Suddenly, the temple pillars begin to crack with a mysterious force. Facing the elite monster, she readies herself for the coming fight. Attacking with all her might, she lands a powerful blow and starts to dominate the enemy. He notes that the mission is a defensive one, and prepares for the other goblins. Distracted, she sees a goblin slip past and run straight for the goddess statue. But he creates a barrier, announcing that his defense is solid and secure. Giving the order, he tells her to focus on the elite while he handles the others. Understanding the plan, she turns back to the main fight against the monster. Concentrating all her strength, she prepares to attack the strongest enemy. With her feet covered in lightning, she charges toward the enemy at high speed. She then launches a direct attack, surprising the elite goblin with her strength. Seeing the scene, he realizes she understood the strategy for the next test. Trusting her, he activates his amplification to take care of his own side of the arena. Using his wind power, he effortlessly throws all the goblins far away. As he deals with the horde, one of the monsters watches him from a distance. Suddenly, the creature throws an axe, but he stops the blow with his magic. With a smirk, he notices his special ability was activated by the attack. He's surprised, as he didn't expect the goblins to be this smart. Meanwhile, her fight against the elite continues, making everything more complicated. Shouting that she'll end this, she prepares her final attack against the monster, but the goblin empowers itself with dark energy, suddenly blocking the attack. Dodging just in time, she watches the monster's attack fly right past her at high speed. The blow then strikes the goddess statue, completely destroying the target. With the statue in pieces, they fail the mission once again. Saying it was a close call, he tells her they just need a few small adjustments. Noticing her frustration, he's unsure of what to say next. With a shaken expression, she makes it clear that generic comfort won't help. Shortly after, the mentor ends the session and tells everyone to review the replays. Looking at the students, she finally says that everyone is dismissed. As everyone leaves, Kim Ho thanks her for her work and the training. Confused by her expression, he asks what really happened during the test. Shrugging, she says she only set the objective and didn't anticipate the goblins. She then yells that combat has unexpected turns, and they need to adapt. Noticing her smile, he stares at her, and she wonders what's up. Thinking about the lesson, he decides to focus on his own advancement from now on. Having used his wind magic, he decides it's time to get another skill. Just then, he remembers Spiral Blast, a skill essential to his style. He recalls that this was one of his main abilities in the game before, but to learn this spell, he needs to combine 3 other skills first. With a plan in mind, he knows he needs to learn the weaker spells first. Finding Dang Yu young, he asks for help in mastering a new skill. She immediately asks if it's a wind spell, and he confirms it right away. Angrily, she shouts that she won't help, but he calms her down and explains. The next day, Han Somi invites Song Cheon-hai to have a sandwich. Approaching the table, she compliments the food and gets ready for lunch. Suddenly, Kim Ho shows up and places his tray on the table with them. Explaining his arrival, he says he thought they could discuss the test over lunch. Excited, Han Somi invites him to sit, and Song Cheon-hee agrees. He then asks if she reviewed the replay, and she says the overall structure was good. Taking a bite, he asks if the problem is just with the elite monster. Noticing his tone, she says he seems to have an alternative in mind. He then asks if she remembers what happened right before the monster attacked the statue. Recalling the scene, she finally realizes there was an important detail before the attack. Eating a snack, she says there was a roar and a movement, and he agrees. After the explanation, he advises them to watch the enemy's movements carefully. Then she stands up, saying they'll go on ahead and see him later. With a wink, he says goodbye and tells them he'll catch up with them later. Now, more cheerful, the two of them turn and look back at him with a smile. Back in the arena, they wait for their turn to enter the test again. He remarks that the other pair is holding out longer than he expected. Confident, he says they can pass if they take care of the elite goblin. As the timer hits 0, the other duo finally completes the difficult challenge. They then leave the arena, looking quite pleased with their result. Seeing her rival ahead, she gets annoyed, but he tells her to relax. With determination, she tells him they should get in there and finish the test for good. Starting the new attempt, she activates her lightning field once more. She then charges toward the horde of goblins rapidly approaching them. With a shout, she hits the first goblin with a powerful blow. Next, she attacks another goblin, showing off all her combat agility. Warning that there's no escape, she surrounds one of the monsters with her lightning. Standing in the middle of the field, she keeps the enemies under control with her magic. Watching from a distance, he notices her precision has improved a lot since the first time. Suddenly, the elite goblin appears again, growling and ready to fight. Seeing the monster, she says she's finally found it and prepares to attack. She then warns that she'll end it quickly and asks him for cover. Preparing her hand, she concentrates a large amount of lightning for the attack. With a powerful strike, she hits the elite goblin with all her might. He realizes her strategy is good, but questions if she can be fast enough. Either way, he says his job is to provide support until the end. Watching the other monsters, he notices they seem to have a plan too. Seeing them spread out, he understands they want to surround the statue from a distance. Then, one of the goblins throws its weapon toward the goddess statue. Even after blocking several attacks, one of the axes gets past him. The blow hits the statue, dealing 8% damage at once. With a smirk, he realizes it won't be as easy as it seemed at first. He then understands that the commander found a way to exploit his weaknesses. Now he knows it's a race against time to see who will win. Meanwhile, her fight against the elite goblin continues fiercely. Continuing the exchange of blows, she faces the elite monster with everything she's got. Suddenly, the goblin powers up and reveals a huge sword to attack. As the monster roars, she braces for the incoming attack. Catching the blade, she warns that the same trick won't work twice, but it grabs her with one hand and throws the weapon with the other. Seeing the attack go through, Kim Ho notices how hard she's trying. Deciding to help, he resolves to intervene so she can succeed at least once. He then deflects the weapon, but the blow still hits and damages the statue. Shocked, she can't believe she fell for the same trick a second time in a row. Trying to calm her down, he tells her it's not over yet, and there's still the final minute. Regaining her focus, she faces the elite goblin and prepares to fight. Seeing it's unarmed, she realizes it's just a common goblin now. Seizing the chance, She charges forward and lands a powerful blow on the monster. As time runs out, she sees the counter and the statue's remaining health. To finish it off, she fires a powerful bolt of lightning at all the remaining enemies. Even after the fight, he notes that her mana reserve is impressive. When the time is up, they see the final score and confirm their success. But he notices she's not satisfied, calling the result a failure. She then declares that next time, she'll use a much more defensive approach. The next day, after class, the scene shifts to the classroom. After the test, he decides to focus on unlocking his new magic skill now. Just then, Hong Yunhua appears at the door, surprising everyone in the room. As she walks toward him, he already guesses the reason for her unexpected visit. Stopping right in front of his desk, she gets ready to speak. He then greets her, and she replies, breaking the classroom's silence. Awkwardly, she says she only came here to give him something. Placing the item on the desk, she explains it was a request from the blacksmithing department. Seeing the item made of cold iron, he analyzes the result of his request. Picking up the object called root, he begins to inspect all its properties. He then reads that it's a component for a very high-rank weapon. Seeing the unlimited potential for upgrades, he remembers the deal he made before. He then fits the new piece into his weapon, preparing for the next step. With a new option unlocked, he decides he'll test it in the next trial. Asking if he likes it, she hears him say it turned out better than expected. With a smile, she says she's glad the final result was good. Then he asks about her rank, and she confirms she moved up to C. Advising her to keep it up, he hears that's her plan. He then suggests she fight ice monsters in dungeons to train. Telling her not to rush, he says goodbye and heads to his mentorship session. But before he can leave, Seo Ye-in grabs him by the sleeve of his jacket. Looking at him, she says she wants to go somewhere over the weekend. Surprised, he tries to postpone the conversation, saying it's time for his mentorship. With a serious look, she insists it has to be now, leaving him confused. She calls him over, saying she wants to go somewhere, but he tries to delay. She insists it has to be now, leaving him confused about the situation. Just then, her mentor shows up and announces it's time for training. The mentor then remembers their agreement, warning the girl she can't guarantee her any rest. With nothing else to do, she leans on the table and gives up on the conversation. Watching the two leave, he comments that the mentor's timing was perfect. Thinking about his plans, he remembers that today is his supplemental class day. After class in the arena, she says everyone adjusted well to the tests. To everyone's surprise, she announces she's increasing the number of goblins tomorrow. Not understanding their shock, she says that tomorrow is the final day of training. Ending the session, she dismisses the group, who leave complaining loudly about the difficulty. Approaching her, he asks if they can have their extra lesson today. She asks if he just needs her to gather the monsters, and he confirms. Moving to the temple, the two get into position to start the special training. Within seconds, a goblin leaps and lunges toward them, ready to attack. One of the goblins screams as it's hit head-on by a wind spell. Using his new ability, he makes all the monsters levitate in the air at once. Impressed, she comments that an ability to eliminate so many monsters is broken. She then asks what kind of wind magic he used. Explaining the weapon, he says it makes the monsters lighter and easier to deal with. Curious, she asks what skill he's trying to learn this time. Getting ready to show her, he says the skill is one of the strongest. With a smile, he says it's better to show her than just explain it. Pointing the weapon at her, he gets ready to use his new ability right there. As she's thrown into the air, she yells at him for using the spell on her. Losing her patience, she warns him she's had enough of his games. With a hand on his head, a shadow appears and glares at him angrily. Annoyed, she pinches his cheeks, and he insists it was just a joke. After the commotion, he asks if they're done, and she thanks him for his help. Now with the weapon and skill ready, he decides to adjust his traits. Looking at his traits, he realizes he needs to swap out one of his abilities soon. But before getting rid of it, he says there's one last place to use it. Changing scenes. Go Hyun-woo felt his training progress was remarkable. He then remembered everything Kim Ho had done for him. He then recalls the statue containing the martial principles he had seen before. That vision allowed him to survive the White Serpent's powerful attack. To repay the debt, he began studying the statue's principles. With a replica in hand, he vows to develop skills to return the favor. Firm in his decision, he positions himself as a disciple of his sect. Days later, back in the room, Kim Ho hands an object to his friend. Surprised, he asks what the occasion is, but Kim Ho says it's a gift. Analyzing the pen, he recognizes it's made of eternal cold iron. Kim Ho explains there was leftover material, so he asks the blacksmithing department for a favor. He asks about the clip, and Kim Ho says he knows Go Hyun-woo always carries it. Showing him the pen cap, he asks his friend to fit the clip on it. Seeing the pen's stats, Go Hyun-woo is impressed by what it does. Thanking him for the gift, he says he feels uncomfortable receiving so much. Kim Ho then reminds him of the fight they had, saying it's just compensation. Suggesting it's an advance payment, He leaves his friend confused by the proposal. Asking about the underground, he confirms he has something to retrieve from there. Go Hyun-woo offers to help, and Kim Ho takes the chance to invite him along. With everything set, they prepare to go to the dungeon that very night. Arriving at the location, a man appears and greets them as valued clients. Just then, another young man shows up and says he came running as soon as he heard the call. Handing them some items, he asks if he needs to explain how to use each one. Kim Ho then asks if they'll run into any veterans, but the young man assures him they won't. Go Hyun-woo praises his skills, and the young man says he's been escorting many teams lately. With a smile, the young man boasts about his experience in guiding people. Suddenly, he announces they've already reached their destination in the blink of an eye. Standing before the portal, he reveals that this is the Temple of the Feathered Serpent Dungeon.